Chapter 150. Beside the waterfall. Qingya had already completely fainted. When both sides were fighting in full swing, one wouldn't be able to endure the feeling of dizziness. If she were to see the scene of the little lowly sucking the blood of the little lowly, she reckoned that she would definitely turn into a fool. Yihua hugged onto Qingya and lightly caressed onto Qingya's smooth face. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. The stimulation training is almost done. I have to take it slow. Boss. Lai Gu put away his usual frivolous attitude and said gravely. Yihua looked towards the night sky and said faintly, "Let's take a look first." In an instant, a black figure was flying towards the campsite at high speed. Yihua silently raised his head and took a look at the black figure, then lightly waved his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda came to a sudden stop and stopped not far away from Yihua. The black fog in the tower was very thick, as if it was showing off its strength. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, as if it was about to charge out. A trace of red light flashed past Yihua's eyes. However, when the red light flashed, the black fog in the 9 demons punishment tower seemed to pause for a moment. After being stunned for 0.1 seconds, all of it shrank back into the tower and trembled. A mere little demon dares to clamor in front of me? If not for the fact that I still have some use for them, I would have burned them all. Right now, the 9 demons punishing pagoda was no different from ordinary decorations. In fact, it could even be said to be ugly. It was just a black iron pagoda shaped like a pagoda. The 4 maids were stunned. In order to snatch the 9 demons punishing pagoda, more than 10,000 people had died. However, when it came to the boss, they could see the disdain on his face. Even the raging pagoda had quietened down. What an enigmatic boss. Wei Chong and Lai Gu deeply wrinkled their brows. It was not because of Tower, but rather, they were worried about how his honor was going to deal with her. Yihua was indeed thinking about how to deal with the situation. To kill or not to kill, it would still have to depend on the actual situation. Taking a deep breath, Yihua lightly waved his hand once more, and the 9 demons punishing pagoda on the table immediately flew back like a cannonball. High up in the sky not far away. Song Di had already caught up to the crowd, and he was even at the very front. He had even injured Hai Daixi and Che Zhishuan while he was at it, and his chances of seizing the ancient godly item had increased by a bit. Get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Even I am afraid of you. Song Di shouted in a low voice. Right now, he had to put on a false show of strength and take advantage of this momentum to suppress them. Otherwise, if they joined forces, it would be very difficult to deal with them. The others didn't even bother with Song Di and continued flying. Emperor Tsong had never been ignored like this before, and he immediately flashed in front of everyone. You don't know how to appreciate favors. You really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Today, I will exterminate all of you. Just as Grey Emperor was about to display his might, a shocking aura came from behind him. Grey Emperor thought that someone was sneaking up on him, so he slightly dodged. Wang Debao, who was in the group, was overjoyed. It was not a hidden weapon at all. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had flown back. And it's flying towards me, haha. As expected, Wang Debao's luck has never been bad. Even if it's snatching an ancient godly item, it's still a stroke of good luck. Wang Debao caught the 9 demons punishing pagoda, and to everyone's surprise, he turned around and ran without a second thought. Seeing this, Zhou Xinran and Guang Tianlu both chose to retreat, while the other cultivators continued to chase after them. However, Grey Emperor did not move. His handsome face was filled with malevolence. Just who was it that was playing with him? Who was it? Looking back, not far away in the valley, there were traces of fire. Emperor Tsong clenched his fists tightly and an unending stream of spiritual energy erupted from his body. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged and thunder rumbled, as if the end of the world had arrived. He did not need the ancient godly item. But, the person who played with him must die. Emperor Tsong immediately flew towards the valley with an astonishing aura. Yihua and the others did not leave the dining table. Everyone was quietly sitting on the table, seemingly waiting for something. Wei Chong and Lai Gu were a little abnormal, while the 4 maids were rather indifferent. As for Yihua, who was carrying Qingya in his embrace, he would either pinch her face or pinch her nose. In any case, he was just bullying her in various ways. Boom! A figure descended from the sky and created a huge splash, causing the ground to tremble. Beep, beep, beep. The alarms of the two Kayans rang out. Emperor Song looked at the people who were camping in front of him and revealed a look of doubt. Isn't that man the owner of the bar? There's also that security guard and that young man. There are also 4 people who are dressed in maid attire. What are they doing here? Thinking back to the black robe that appeared at the very beginning, Emperor Song seemed to have thought of something. We are just bait, and the black robe might be lying in ambush nearby. But so what? I, Emperor Song, can kill them with just a flick of my fingers. On the other hand, these women are all top grade. It would be a pity for them to die. Yihua didn't even look at Emperor Song, who was walking over and was still pinching Qingya's face. Wei Chong let out a breath. One of you, go and deal with them. The eyes of the 4 maids shone. Right now, even Tang Wei has fallen. Not only is she not afraid, she even has the desire to fight. Emperor Song looked at the 4 maids, who stood up and walked to the side and whispered to each other. Soon after, he heard their sweet voices. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Haha, I won, Bai Xiaozhen shouted out happily and felt very embarrassed. The other 3 women pouted their mouths. This is a chance for me to show off. Not only can I show off in front of men, I can also show off in front of the boss. What kind of glory is this? I wonder when I will have to wait for the next time. Bai Xiaozhen placed her hands on her abdomen and slowly walked to the front of Emperor Song. Then she said shyly, "Hello, I am your opponent." Emperor Song looked as if he had received a critical hit of 10,000 damage. His entire being was sinister and terrifying. They actually used rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go on stage. The main point was the women. And they even came over to greet you. Damn it, this isn't good. Tonight, my dignity was already trampled on twice. And yet when I came here, I was humiliated again. And I was even humiliated by a weak woman. To actually disregard my existence, don't blame me for being ruthless. Bai Xiaozhen appeared to be very embarrassed. Seeing that Emperor Song's face was twitching, Bai Xiaozhen thought that Emperor Song was sick. Just as the 2 were preparing to make their move, a sweet singing voice rang out from the forest. Little rabbit, be obedient, open the door, quickly open the door, I want. Hee, Lai Gu's gaze became serious. Xiaozhen, come back. Bai Xiaozhen turned her head around and took a look at the man confusedly, then sighed and walked back. Emperor Song did not pay attention to Bai Xiaozhen and looked at the shadow in the forest. As the singing voice got closer and closer, the shadow finally appeared. Emperor Song's gaze was filled with astonishment. Isn't this little lowly the person inside the coffin? Why did she come out? The little lowly took a glance at the coffin, and her red pupils became even more dazzling. Little rabbits, you all have been hiding here, causing me to search for you all for so long. I don't even want to move anymore, I'm so tired. The little lowly fanned herself with her little hands. This action of hers was truly adorable. Emperor Song's expression distorted. The biggest humiliation of my entire life is tonight. Pretending to be mysterious. Emperor Song could be seen aiming his palms towards the little lowly, and a black light could be seen gushing out from his body, causing the ground to immediately cave in. Destroy you, yumming. In less than 10 seconds, only his skeleton and outer layer of skin were left. No one would be able to recognize that he was the famous Sky Emperor. And even though Emperor Song died, he didn't understand many things. The little lowly licked her bright red lips. So delicious, much better than those. Retracting her ponytail, the little lowly bounced over to a place not far away from Yihua and said with a slight smile, "Those are all little rabbits, you guys are the big tigers, don't run away like little rabbits, if not, I will be very angry." Yihua lightly caressed Qingya, who was in his embrace, then looked at the little lowly who was not far away from him and asked faintly, "What is your name?" The little lowly pouted and poked her chin with her index finger. After thinking for a long time she said, I'm not telling you." "Yeezy," Yihua shouted gravely. Little Lolita's scarlet eyes were suddenly startled. She suddenly jumped back, and the smile on her face immediately disappeared. She asked coldly, "Who are you? Why do you know me?" Yihua stared at the little lowly's every movement and even the minute expression on her face, then shouted coldly, "Yeezy, do you know the consequences of lying to me?" The little lowly grinned and shook her ponytail. "Although I don't know why you know me, but you guys are really delicious. Impudent. Impudent. Wei Chong and Lai Gu shouted out, and a burst of killing intent erupted out from their bodies. The little lowly spread out her hands and had a look of disdain on her face. She even took out a small mirror and looked at herself to see if her hairstyle had changed or not. Wei Chong and Lai Gu could clearly feel that his honor was really angry, and the two hurriedly said, "Boss, let us do it." Yi Hua knew what Wei Chong and Lai Gu were thinking. They wanted to protect her. That's right. Wei Chong and Lai Gu indeed wanted to protect the little lowly. If they were to take action, the little lowly would definitely not die. But if they were to let his honor take action, the little lowly would most likely die. Wei Chong and Lai Gu felt that his honor was just joking in the past. How could it be possible for the 7 sins to betray his honor? However, looking at the current situation, it was no different from betraying his honor. Although in the past, she was everyone's joy, and even when she took on a human's name, she still had the same surname as his honor, and even went so far as to give his honor a nickname, Big Bones. Within the 7 sins, only she, Yi Zizi, dared to address his honor as Big Bones. However, the current her was no longer the Yi Zizi from back then. Even if that was the case, Wei Chong and Lai Gu found it hard to believe what was happening in front of their eyes. Yi Hua took a deep breath, and his thoughts went back to a long time ago. He remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was still very small, just like a little doll. Back then, Yi Zizi was being surrounded by humans, and when I and the others passed by this place, we killed the humans. Originally, we were going to kill Yi Zizi, but one of the 7 sins could see that Yi Zizi was not a human, and thus, he spared Yi Zizi's life. Even now, Yi Hua could still remember that back then, Yi Zizi's eyes were scarlet red, and she had a look of not wanting to admit defeat. The facts proved that in the future, Yi Zizi would become an indispensable character within the 7 sins. Wei Chong only ate living humans, while Yi Zizi didn't even let the dead off. However, she had a bad personality, and that was that she was too lazy. If she could lie down, she would definitely not sit down. I really don't know where she learned this bad habit from. From what happened today, it could be seen that Yi Zizi didn't want to go to the 7 sins one by one, and instead, she wanted to use an ancient godly item to lure the 7 sins over and capture all of them in one go. Looking at that familiar face, the final scene appeared in Yi Hua's mind. Yi Zizi was surrounded and attacked by 3 overlords, and in the end, she fell into Yi Hua's embrace. The words that she said back then were still resounding in Yi Hua's mind. He remembered that back then, Yi Zizi's entire body was covered in blood, and she didn't even have the strength to raise her hand. However, that pair of scarlet red eyes of hers was still leaking out unwillingness. Big Bones, Zizi doesn't want to die, Zizi wants to play with you, Zizi wants to compete with the gluttonous monster, Zizi still wants to ride the big bone dragon, Zizi wants to be together with you all, Big Bones. Zizi is so cold. So cold. Sensing that Yi Zizi's body was gradually becoming stiff, Yi Hua revealed the pain of humanity for the first time, and Yi Hua's painful howls resounded throughout the entire battlefield. Yi Zizi, the first of the 7 sins to die in battle. Back then, everyone went crazy. Even if they had to exchange injuries for injuries, they still wanted to kill those 3 overlords. She was indeed exactly the same as Yi Zizi, everything was the same, but in the end, it was just an empty shell, and the soul had already changed. Yi Hua wouldn't allow anyone to taint the Yi Zizi from back then, even if it was just an empty shell. Chapter 152. Wei Chong and Lai Gu turned pale with fright and shouted out involuntarily, "Your Honor!" When the 4 maids heard how Wei Chong and Lai Gu addressed him, their heads were filled with doubt. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, and Wei Chong and Lai Gu immediately lowered their heads. After placing Qingya into the tent, Yi Zizi tidied up Qingya's hair and sighed. Walking out of the tent, Yi Zizi stood 5 meters away from Yi Zizi. Wei Chong and Lai Gu revealed a nervous expression, not knowing what exactly his honor was going to do to Yi Zizi. Yi Hua took out a cigarette case, took out a cigarette and lit it up. With his brows slightly wrinkled, he said, "It has been a long time since I last fought." Yi Zizi stared at the man in front of her, and a trace of doubt appeared in her heart. She felt that he was a little familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen him. But no matter what, he was still delicious food. "Hee, you are the most pretentious person I have ever seen," Yi Zizi said with a smile, revealing cute dimples on her cheeks. Yi Hua laughed lightly. "Your guts are truly getting bigger and bigger." Humph, I have a lot of guts." Yi Zizi even gestured, looking very cute. Yi Zizi's actions and tone are still the same as before. What exactly is going on? Suddenly, Yi Zizi's scarlet eyes became strange, as if they were rotating. Then, Yi Zizi exclaimed, "Wow, you're a big bone." The cigarette in Yi Hua's hand immediately broke and fell beside his leather shoes. With a bit of surprise, Yi Hua said, "Big bone." He remembered that Yi Zizi used to call him that in the past. Back then, he was still a skeleton. Even after being lectured several times, Yi Zizi still didn't change her way of addressing him. "I didn't expect your true body to be big bone." Yi Zizi was slightly surprised. She then looked to the other side. A monster and a bone dragon. Things were getting interesting. Yi Hua let out a sigh. I thought that Yi Zizi had remembered something, but it turns out that her pair of eyes had seen through my true form. Yi Zizi's eyes were filled with excitement. "What a cute big bone. How about you be my pet?" "I won't suck you." The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly, and Lai Gu, who was at the side, seemed to have thought of the past, and he felt gloomy as well. Lai Gu remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was very mischievous, and furthermore, she also had a problem with aesthetics. Yi Zizi would praise his honor for being handsome every day, and express that she also wanted a skeleton as a pet. But his honor refused to give it to Yi Zizi, and in the end, Yi Zizi came to look for trouble with Lai Gu and even wanted to ride on Yi Zizi's back then. Not being able to ride on Lai Gu was one of Yi Zizi's biggest regrets before she died. That will depend on whether you have the ability or not. Alright then, I'll go easy on you. A true battle was about to break out, and Yi Zizi also became serious. Although she sounded relaxed, she could faintly sense that the other party was very powerful. It was the same for the other two, and as for the other 4 women, they were negligible. Pavilion Master, it's there! All of a sudden, a black crowd surged over. There were at least 3,000 people. They were the northern forces that followed Emperor Tsong here. Originally, he was in too much of a hurry when he escaped and lost contact with Emperor Tsong. Now, he had no idea where Emperor Tsong had gone. He thought that it would be better for him to just return to avoid any more accidents. However, the pavilion master of the Extreme Will Pavilion and Fengshan subordinates had reported to him, so he decided to come to this stronghold to take a look. The Sumeru Workshop's Xu Zhenhai and the Phoenix King Pavilion's Man Kai also came over to take a look as a form of respect for He Feng. 3,000 people descended and occupied half of the empty space in the small valley. The 3 big shots immediately saw Emperor Tsong, who had been sucked dry. However, the 3 of them only took a glance at Emperor Tsong before shifting their gazes away. After all, with Emperor Tsong's current appearance, even if his mother came over, she wouldn't be able to recognize him. Because Yi Zizi's back was facing everyone, the 3 big shots only felt that Yi Zizi looked familiar. Yi Hua, on the other hand, was facing Yi Zizi, and the 3 big shots felt that Yi Zizi looked really stylish. There were also 2 men and 4 women beside Yi Zizi, and there were even tents beside Yi Zizi. From the looks of it, Yi Zizi's taste is rather heavy. Also, what is the meaning of this little lowly who is wearing a princess dress? Looking at the two's posture, it seems like they are preparing to fight. Man Kai hated people who bullied little girls the most. How can you be like this, to even bully little girls? After speaking, Man Kai walked towards Yi Zizi with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. Yi Zizi silently lit up a cigarette. Man Kai patted onto Yi Zizi's shoulder, then said with a smile, "Little girl, don't be afraid. Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, you can just tell Big Brother." "Big Brother, really?" Yi Zizi turned around with a smile. Man Kai's pupils grew bigger and bigger. Isn't this the fucking little lowly in the coffin? In the beginning, I was still sighing. A strand of hair quietly drilled into the dumbstruck Man Kai's mouth. In just a few seconds, Man Kai turned into a dried corpse. However, the strand of hair didn't come out and supported Man Kai's corpse. This caused the people behind to think that Man Kai was whispering to the little lowly. "Tower Master Man, that should be enough." He Feng frowned and shouted out. "With so many disciples watching, even if you don't care about your face, I still care about it." Seeing that Man Kai still didn't have any reaction, everyone couldn't help but raise their vigilance. Xu Zhenhai shouted out loudly, "Tower Master Man, enough is enough. Don't throw away the face of your Phoenix King Pavilion." The disciples of the Phoenix King Pavilion felt extremely awkward. The Tower Master's illness is acting up again. Yi Zizi used the strand of hair to control Man Kai and slowly turned around. The dried-up Man Kai could be seen stretching out his hands and making a peace sign. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi's head turned 180 degrees and shouted out sweetly. Also, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air and took a step back. At the moment of imminent peril, He Feng and Xu Zhenhai immediately shouted out, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Everyone knew of Man Kai's strength. For Man Kai to be able to kill Man Kai without making a sound, Man Kai's strength was definitely not ordinary. The people that were sent here must have been sucked dry. Hateful little white rabbit, trying to run again. Yi Zizi puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. Tens of thousands of strands of hair quickly grew longer, causing people to shiver. Snap! Right at this moment, a finger snap echoed in the valley. Yi Zizi went into a daze and slowly turned her head back. Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette and his right hand was slightly raised. Yi Zizi's eyes focused. A circular red barrier immediately appeared around her body. See? The circular barrier seemed to be withstanding some kind of powerful attack as it trembled slightly. Soon after, cracks appeared on the barrier like a spider web. Yi Zizi looked at the barrier curiously. However, the 3,000 people that were running away instantly turned into dust, as if they were never there in the first place. The walls of the valley were also shaved off by an invisible force. The pitiful Emperor Tsong originally had a corpse, but right now, not even a trace of his corpse was left. This was a finger snap that was compressed again and again. It was the first time Yi Hua tested it, and he felt that the power of the finger snap was pretty good. It was able to cause fatal damage to those people, but it did not have any effect on Yi Zizi. Chapter 153. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. He lightly waved his left hand, and the two instantly disappeared from the valley. Wei Chong looked at the two that disappeared, then turned his head around and looked at Lai Gu. Gluttonous monster, think of a way. Lai Gu said anxiously. He was about to reveal his true form. Wei Chong looked at the place where the two disappeared and took a deep breath. The reason why his honor didn't look for them is because he wanted to see their attitude. But Zizi is different. We watched Zizi grow up. Lai Gu was like an ant on a hot pot. He was afraid that his honor would get angry and kill Zizi. How could Wei Chong not understand that there is a good side to human nature, but there is also a bad side to human nature? Suspicion. His honor is different from the past. He won't be as unreasonable as he was back then. Wei Chong sighed and said, then walked to the small stool and picked up the fishing rod. However, he didn't throw the fishing rod out. It could be seen that Wei Chong was actually very worried. Lai Gu stomped his feet heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Crushed stones fell from the mountain, and the birds in the forest immediately flew up into the sky. The two of them were helpless right now and could only wait for the result. Forcefully interfering would only make the result worse. On the other side, Yi Zizi looked around curiously. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, and there were a lot of dilapidated houses. The wood of the houses had already decayed. Big Bone, why did you bring me here? Yi Zizi asked curiously. She felt that the two of them didn't seem like they were going to fight at all. Yi Hua smoked his cigarette and walked to the side of a rotten wood. He lightly touched the rotten wood with his fingertip, and the rotten wood immediately turned into broken pieces. You were here at that time. Yi Hua breathed out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth. What was I doing here? Yi Hua didn't answer and said calmly, You are very stubborn. I originally wanted to kill you, but you are very lucky. Bragging. Yi Zizi snorted, then tilted her head 45 degrees, looking very cute. However, you were still saved and became one of my subordinates. Yi Zizi spread out her hands. All right, you are really bragging to the heavens. If you can still remember now, I can let bygones be bygones. Yi Hua's tone changed and emitted out an eerie killing intent. Yi Zizi went silent for a while, then suddenly, of a look as if she remembered of everything she said, I remember coming. Yi Hua paused for a moment. Really? Haha, Big Bone, you are so gullible. Yi Zizi stuck out her tongue and made a funny face. This angered Yi Hua quite a bit, and a powerful killing intent immediately exploded out from his entire body. The killing intent seethed like huge waves in the sea, causing the surrounding air to seem as if it was going to solidify, causing people to feel suffocated. The sharp aura caused Yi Zizi's ponytail to dance wildly. However, Yi Zizi was not afraid at all. An unprecedented excitement appeared on her adorable face. Big Bone is amazing, I can do it too. A killing intent that did not lose out to Yi Hua could be seen erupting out from Yi Zizi's body. Although the two killing intents were formless, when they clashed together, a qualitative change occurred. Suddenly, two murderous auras materialized and spread out in a circle. However, this killing intent was like a sickle, cutting through everything. There was not a single meter-tall tree in a 10-mile radius. Countless creatures were cut in half. Yi Zizi giggled, and a bright red spear instantly appeared in her hands. This spear was not ordinary. The spearhead was as long as the spear body, and the spearhead was scarlet red, emitting out a faint layer of blood mist. Meanwhile, the body of the spear was like a flowing river of blood, and one could even hear the cries of aggrieved souls, causing people to tremble with fear. Immediately afterward, a set of white crystal armor appeared on Yi Zizi's body as well. The armor covered 99% of Yi Zizi's body, and even her eyes were the same. As for the remaining 1%, it was her ponytail that was revealed. Various kinds of runes were imprinted on the armor, and every rune represented a type of defense, which was unimaginable. Big Bone, are you going to fight with me empty-handed? Yi Zizi's sweet voice rang out from within the armor. Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette in his hand. Yi Hua could be heard saying calmly, Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination, its biggest specialty is that during battle, it can suck the opponent's blood essence, even if it didn't touch the opponent's body. And that faint red mist is even more fatal. It replaced your hair, and unknowingly, the enemy would be able to inhale it, causing them to hallucinate. And this is only the first stage. You should know the second stage even without me saying it. Moon Scroll Profound Armor, it can be said to be a perfect gray defense, but it is a pity that you have to poke 2 holes to expose your hair, and these 2 holes are the flaws. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a stiff expression. She found it hard to believe. Why does he know all of my secrets? Impossible. How do you know all of these? Yi Zizi's tone suddenly changed. It was no longer the sweet lowly voice. It was as if a ghost was crying. Along with Yi Zizi's roar, it once again formed a sound wave that swept towards the surroundings. Yi Hua looked at Yi Zizi, who was in an unstable state of mind, and said faintly, Because all of these were given to you by me. Impossible. You lied to me. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, had a sinister expression. Yi Hua knew all of my secrets, and Yi Zizi knew what this meant. Yi Hua sneered, then his body gradually degenerated, and in a blink of an eye, his original body was revealed. A skeleton. Compared to Death Mage was slightly taller by a bit. His shoulder width was the same as well, and his bone structure was the same as well. However, his skull was extremely similar. It could be seen that Death Mage was also a very handsome person in the past. Yi Hua stretched out his 5 fingers and took a look at them. It has been a long time since I last looked at my main body, and I am a bit not used to it. Now, your Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination is useless against me. At most, it's just a sharp spear. There's nothing to fear. Yi Zizi tightly gripped the Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination spear in her hand. The blood mist on the spearhead increased greatly. It could be seen how indignant Yi Zizi was right now. As for breaking your Moon Scroll Profound Armor, I have many ways. For example, Yi Hua waved his hand, and thousands of miniaturized weapons could be seen revolving around his body. As for Yi Hua, it was as if he was playing with a tablet computer. All of a sudden, Yi Hua chose one of them and grabbed onto it. A purple long blade could be seen appearing in Yi Hua's hand. The entire body of the blade was engraved with golden stripes, and an unknown golden liquid was flowing out from the tip of the blade. After the golden liquid fell onto the blade, the golden liquid knew how to flow on its own, as if the golden liquid had its own consciousness. This gold flame dark blade is enough to break your crescent mystic armor. As for the Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination in your hands, Yi Hua could be seen waving his hand once again. Thousands of armors could be seen appearing around Yi Hua's body. Yi Hua chose one of the armors, and the skeleton immediately condensed out. Although this secret feather armor is not a top-notch item, it is still able to suppress the blood chi in your body. If you match it with... Immediately, a shield condensed out on Yi Hua's left hand. If you match it with this serene heavy shield, it will be able to suppress your blood chi to the lowest point. As expected, the Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination spear, which was originally filled with blood chi, gradually weakened, and only traces of blood mist could be seen coming out from it. Although I am not good at strength, it is still enough to deal with you. Chapter 154. Thinking back to the past, he had been a fool. He had put aside some top-tier equipment and insisted on using his own body to defeat his enemies. After all these years of understanding, Yihua felt that wearing equipment was also a kind of advantage. Of course, every mage had the heart of a warrior. Death Mage was also the same. Suddenly, cracks began appearing on the ground beneath Yi Zizi's feet, and even the air seemed to be trembling. Yihua's gaze immediately became serious. Yi Zizi covered his helmet with one hand and suddenly burst into laughter. You underestimate me, Yi Zizi. Big Bone, you've really made me angry. Boom. Yi Zizi's aura completely erupted. The blood stirrups in her hand shone brighter than before. Looks like your strength has also increased. That's good. Let's fight. Yihua raised up the heavy shield in his hand and placed the gold flame dark blade on top of the shield, then slightly tilted his body. Don't look at how Yi Zizi was a little lowly. Her explosive power was the most ferocious among the 7 deadly sins. At that time, Yihua didn't dare to take Yi Zizi's spear head-on, but right now, it was different. Yihua had the confidence that he could win against Yi Zizi with his weak power. Die! Yi Zizi let out a ghostly cry and leapt high into the air. Yihua raised his head slightly and saw that the sky behind Yi Zizi was filled with blood mist. Countless sinister faces of vengeful spirits appeared behind Yi Zizi, and their miserable cries could be heard. I have said it before. Your moves are useless against me. I am completely able to suppress you. Yihua raised his heavy shield high up. Bang! A loud sound suddenly rang out between the heavens and the earth. The originally clear sky was filled with dark clouds, and it was soon dyed red by the color of blood. It was as if the entire world had fallen into blood. The collision of the weapons created a huge shockwave, and everything around it evaporated. This was just a simple collision. Blood Stirrup's solitary illumination could be seen emitting out a blood mist, which instantly enveloped Yihua. However, Yihua was just a skeleton, so where would he get the blood essence from? Yihua's main body was able to restrain Yi Zizi. I have said it before, your moves are useless against me. Yihua's gaze turned cold, and the gold flame dark blade that was in his hand slashed towards Yi Zizi while carrying along a berserk aura. Yi Zizi snorted and grabbed the blade with her left hand. Yihua's brows wrinkled. Yi Zizi's strength has far surpassed my estimation. From the looks of it, after coming back to life, she has become stronger as well, and is no longer the Yi Zizi from back then. The strength is not bad. This is indeed a good saber, but it can't break my Moon Scroll mystic armor. Yi Zizi snorted disdainfully. Although Yihua was shocked by Yi Zizi's strength, it was not to the extent of being defeated. I have said it before, this blade is used to break your Moon Scroll profound armor. Yihua said coldly. What a joke! However, as soon as she finished speaking, Yi Zizi saw the golden liquid flowing into her hand. Yi Zizi immediately let go of the golden flame dark blade and tried to fling the disgusting liquid away, but to no avail. Pay attention to your feet. Yihua reminded. Yi Zizi looked and saw that another golden liquid had wrapped around her leg. Yi Zizi, if you had listened to me back then and didn't poke those 2 holes, you wouldn't have died, but you didn't listen. Yihua shouted out coldly. Back then, the human Yi Zizi was also able to find Yi Zizi's flaw and kill her with a single strike. Yi Zizi scurried up and down, and countless holes were smashed open on the ground. However, those 2 golden liquid were just like glue, sticking tightly onto Yi Zizi's back and slowly crawling towards the holes on the Moon Scroll profound armor. Get away from me, oh! Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, suddenly let out a ghastly howl. Yihua looked on silently. The Moon Scroll profound armor was only Yi Zizi's first line of defense, and her real body was the second line of defense. However, back then, the 3 Yi Zizi didn't even give Yi Zizi the chance to become her real body. Of course, I'm also able to do it right now, but the 2 golden liquid finally crawled into the holes after much difficulty. Yi Zizi, who was still scurrying around just a moment ago, immediately stopped moving, as if her body was frozen. You! Just what is this thing? Yi Zizi asked while standing there foolishly. Yihua said calmly, the golden flame dark blade's formidability doesn't lie in itself, rather, it lies in those 2 golden liquid. Those 2 golden liquid are able to fuse into one's blood and spread a virus, causing one to lose their battle prowess. At that time, your moon scroll profound armor will only be a decoration. So that's how it is, Big Bone. You are powerful, but I am not willing to give up. Yi Zizi's tone was getting weaker and weaker, as if she was going to collapse at any moment. Yi Hua let out a breath. Just surrender. Yi Zizi laughed bitterly, then collapsed onto the ground with unwillingness. A light breeze blew past, and the broken ground was just like the surface of the moon. Potholes could be seen everywhere, causing one to exclaim in admiration. Yi Hua, who was dressed in godly equipment, did not move and continued to look at Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground. After a long while, was it fun? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, paused for a moment, but she still did not have any reaction. You are still the same as before, Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi's personality did not change. Then what exactly happened to her? Yi Zizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, could be seen immediately standing up and snorted, Big Bone, you are very boring. Yi Hua sighed. Seems like I have still underestimated Yi Zizi's ability. After coming back to life, she became even more valiant. Just like me, aren't Wei Chong and Lai Gu the same as well? Yi Hua kept the golden flame dark blade in his hand and summoned out a sharp sword. Dark Abyss Cold Soul. The cold air that was emitted out from the sword caused Yi Zizi to go into a daze. Big Bone, you are shameless. Yi Hua snorted coldly, then leaped high into the air. I am already giving you face by fighting you in close combat. Sword Chi rushed towards Yi Zizi like a raging ocean wave, bringing along a power that could crush everything in the world. The color of the sky suddenly changed. Yi Zizi, who was within the armor, focused her gaze, then raised up the blood stirrup lone illumination spear in her hand, and the red light on the spear's body increased by a bit. This was a battle of strength against strength. However, the reason why Yi Hua chose to fight like this was because of their old friendship, and of course the heart of a warrior was also unavoidable. The moment the two forces collided with each other, the two forces immediately exploded. Boundless power rose from the ground and broke through the layer of blood-red clouds. The terrifying airflow swirled around violently, forming a terrifying astral wind. Big Bone, your strength is indeed not bad, but compared to me, it is still a bit lacking. Yi Zizi laughed. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Is that so? I will let you see what is called strength. Let's wait and see. The two could be seen starting a battle of strength. This kind of scene was just like the end of the world. The ground was trembling, and even the sky had hidden itself deep within the clouds. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of loud sounds reverberated in the world, and the battle between the two had entered into a white-hot stage. The more Yi Zizi fought, the more excited she became, and her strength continued to rise. Coupled with the moon scroll profound armor, she could be said to be invincible in close combat. Chapter 155. In an instant. The two of them instantly separated from each other. Yi Hua looked at Yi Zizi calmly. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi's breathing was a bit chaotic, but her battle prowess was still extraordinary. Yi Zizi, seeing that you have such strength, I am rather happy. Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the godly equipment that he was wearing instantly disappeared, revealing his true form. Yi Zizi calmed her breathing and said in a sweet voice, Big Bone, are you going to admit defeat? Yi Hua's empty eye sockets immediately shone with a red light. Yi Zizi, you don't understand my true strength at all. All right, you are starting to act cool again. Wait till I break your bones, let's see if you are still going to act cool then. Yi Zizi snorted coldly, then pierced towards the space between Yi Hua's eyebrows. As for Yi Hua, he just stood at his original spot and did not take any defensive measures. Blood stirrup solitary illumination blossomed with an incomparably powerful red light. Yi Zizi was planning to grab onto Yi Hua's loophole and end the battle with a single strike. The idea is good, but just like what Yi Hua said, you don't know how powerful the enemy that you are facing is. Just when the tip of the spear was about to pierce through Yi Hua's skull, it actually stopped abruptly. The distance between the spear and Yi Hua's skull was merely 1 millimeter. From this, it could be seen how strong Yi Hua's controllability was. Yi Zizi was stunned for a moment, and then her expression changed drastically. She wanted to pull away, but she found that she couldn't move her body. Yi Zizi, in actuality, I am able to kill you just by moving my finger. However, do you know why I didn't kill you? Yi Hua said lightly. Yi Zizi didn't answer. She used all her strength, but she couldn't break free from the invisible shackles.
Because I can't bear to.
Sky Ghost Fire. Yi Hua shouted out faintly. 5 purple flames appeared around Yi Zizi. Each flame intertwined with each other to form a strange fire array, and Yi Zizi was in the middle of the array. Puff! The purple fire array immediately soared into the sky. The huge round purple fire looked as if it wanted to burn the sky, and Yi Zizi was being burned by it. Ah! I'm going to kill you! Yi Zizi roared within the flames, but to no avail. Yi Hua seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, he felt that Yi Zizi, who was in the fire, had a strange movement. You are still thinking of revealing your true form and escaping. You overestimate yourself. Divine Kuan Chain. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, had a drastic change in her expression. How is it possible that I can't even release my main body? The purple flames continued to burn Yi Zizi. The moon scroll mystic armor on her body had already turned purple, but even so, Yi Zizi's ponytails were still fluttering. Big Bone, I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, could no longer endure the burning and loudly begged for mercy. However, Yi Hua ignored him and continued to wait. I admit defeat. What else do you want? A burst of evil aura emerged from the purple flames. Yi Hua lightly waved his hand, and the so-called evil aura quietly disappeared. Half an hour. 1 hour. 2 hours. You are ruthless. After finished speaking, Yi Zizi fainted. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally managed to make her faint from the fever. All right, let's see what exactly is going on with you. He stretched out his hand, and a lamp appeared in his hand. The name of this lamp was Moonlight Candle. It was able to illuminate all unknown things and could be easily destroyed. However, it was a pity that it could only be used once, and after it was ignited, it would disappear. Furthermore, it had to be used when the target was at their weakest, otherwise, it would be completely useless. At the start, Yi Hua used his strength to resist against the flames because he wanted to test Yi Zizi's strength. Indeed, it was the same as what he thought. Yi Zizi's strength had indeed increased by a lot. Using Sky Ghost Fire to burn her was just to erase her consciousness so that he could use Moonlight Candle. Withdrawing his hand, Sky Ghost Fire instantly disappeared, and Yi Zizi was still under Yi Hua's control. Moonlight Candle slowly floated above Yi Zizi's head, and the flame emitted from the wick illuminated Yi Zizi's entire body. Yi Hua's gaze was fixated on Yi Zizi. I hope that this Moonlight Candle will be effective. Slowly, the candle illuminated Yi Zizi's body, as well as her various physiques. Yi Hua was rather familiar with these physiques, and they were considered normal. Suddenly, 3 faint seals appeared above Yi Zizi's head, forming a triangle. Judging from the shape, 2 of the seals were still missing, thus, they could not be counted as a complete seal. Yi Hua clenched his fists. To actually dare to place a seal on my subordinate. But, Yi Zizi's ability is so strong. Who is able to place a seal on her? I will ask her later. Yi Hua lightly tapped with his finger, and the 3 seals immediately shattered. At this moment, Moonlight Candle finished burning and disappeared from the sky. After the seals disappeared, all of the equipment on Yi Zizi's body disappeared as well. Yi Zizi, who was wearing a princess dress, slowly landed on the ground. Yi Hua summoned out his human form, took out a stick of cigarette, lit it up, and waited for Yi Zizi to wake up. After a long time, Yi Zizi, who was lying on the ground, rubbed her big eyes. Where is this place? So hungry. Yi Zizi sat up and pursed her lips. Suddenly she saw an unfamiliar man in front of her, and the man was smoking a cigarette, so handsome, but this man has such a familiar feeling. Yi Zizi. Yi Hua shouted out gravely. Yi Zizi immediately recalled the battle that happened just now, and her pitiful face collapsed, and bean-sized tears immediately flowed out. Big Bow! Yi Zizi ran with all her might, and tears of joy fell down from the sky. Yi Zizi could be seen throwing herself into Yi Hua's embrace and crying bitterly. This is too miserable. Yi Zizi was just like an abandoned child. Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief, then patted onto Yi Zizi's head. Where did your imposing manner just now go? Big Bone, I know my mistake. Whoa, Big Bone, I miss you so much. Yi Zizi wiped her snot and tears onto Yi Hua's clothes. Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. All right, you have to be punished for doing something wrong. Yi Zizi looked at Yi Hua pitifully, then raised her butt. Don't think that Yi Hua suddenly thought of spanking Yi Zizi, just that in the past, Yi Zizi often made mistakes, so Yi Hua could only spank her butt. Without any politeness, Yi Hua began to teach this mischievous subordinate a lesson. However, the fact that Yi Zizi was able to recover made Yi Hua very happy. All right. Yi Zizi touched her butt, then hugged onto Yi Hua's neck. Big Bone, Zizi misses everyone so much. Don't cry anymore, I still have some things that I want to ask you. Yi Hua said gravely. Yi Zizi wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. And Big Bone, ask me, I will tell you everything that I know. When did you wake up, and who placed the seal on you? Yi Zizi said without thinking too much. Around a year ago, Zizi woke up. At that time, there were a lot of priests who were sitting beside Zizi and chanting incantations, and there was even a magic tool placed on top of Zizi's head. When Zizi woke up, Zizi crushed the magic tool and sucked all of them in. After that, Zizi wandered around and discovered that this world is super fun. There are beautiful dresses to wear. Just that, I am too weak. Big Bone, you also know that Zizi is very lazy, so Zizi thought of a method, which is to gather the more powerful people together and suck them in. Unfortunately, the ones that came were still too weak, and I didn't have enough fun. After that I met... Your Honor, please forgive Zizi Woo Woo, Your Honor. Acting coquettishly mode activated. Chapter 156. Yi Zizi stroked her long ponytail. Actually, Yi Zizi still had many abilities that she had yet to display. Unfortunately, she had been defeated just like that. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Being too strong is also a kind of sin. No one is able to evoke my desire to fight, and only my subordinates are able to make me fight. Throwing everything else aside, today's fight was rather comfortable. According to Yi Zizi's description, she should have awakened 5 years ago. It was just that she was discovered by others, and they wanted to control her. Perhaps, even they did not know that it would take so long to cast the seal. After all, Yi Zizi was too powerful. Even after several years, she was only barely able to cast the 3rd layer of the seal. Before the 2nd layer was completed, Yi Zizi had already awakened. It was just that it was amazing that humans had such a magic tool. However, thinking back to those supremes in the past, they also had many powerful magic tools. It was normal for the people of this world to have 1 or 2. Yi Zizi, who was in his arms, raised her pitiful face and said with grievance, Big Bone, have you forgiven Zizi? I'll forgive you if you don't call me Big Bone. Yi Zizi's face fell. But I've been calling you for a long time. Then I won't forgive you. I'll change, alright? Yi Zizi rubbed her head against Yi Hua's chest and acted coquettishly. Yi Hua thought for a bit. Right now, Qingya still doesn't know of my identity. If I were to have another little girl as my subordinate, and furthermore, the little girl is a little lowly, wouldn't she think that I am a pervert to have even taken a little lowly as my subordinate? Based on Yi Zizi's personality, it was obvious that she was a follower. Even if he forced her out, he didn't know what kind of trouble she would cause. He had tried it back then, and his game had just begun. He couldn't let Yi Zizi ruin it. It would be better to give her an identity. Yi Zizi opened her eyes wide and looked at Yi Hua. Yi Zizi looked extremely pitiful. Call me Big Cousin. When there's no one around, you have to call me Your Honor. Do you understand? He had to take this opportunity to change the way Yi Zizi addressed him. He had really indulged her too much in the past. Yi Zizi was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, she said, Big Cousin. He thought that Yi Zizi would be conflicted for a while, but he didn't expect her to be so straightforward. Yi Zizi had been in the human world for a year, so she knew that Big Cousin was a more intimate form of address. This was much better than Big Bones, so she readily agreed. Big Cousin, I want to see the gluttonous monster and the big bone dragon. Yi Hua knocked onto Yi Zizi's forehead. When there is no one around, call me Your Honor. Also, don't call them nicknames. Yi Zizi rubbed his forehead, then said while puffing out his cheeks, Your Honor, Zizi understands. Go back, Wei Chong will tell you the details. Yes, let's go back. With that, the two of them disappeared from the ruins. After an unknown period of time, a figure suddenly appeared at the scene. He was wearing a purple and gold robe and had a dragon crown on his head. One look and anyone could tell that he was from a rich family. When this person arrived at the scene, He only looked around curiously. After that, he began to look around anxiously as if he had dropped some treasure. The man could be seen scratching onto his face as he muttered softly. There was clearly a notification that the red packet was right here. Why did it disappear? Did the red packet system make a mistake? Suddenly, two black figures knelt in front of the man and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, this place is not suitable to stay for long. A large number of sects are currently gathering here." The man sighed helplessly. "I can only look for an opportunity to come back and take a look." Not long after the man left, countless people rushed over. If Yi Hua was still here, there would be a few familiar faces among the crowd. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chong and Lai Gu sat on a small stool and waited quietly. Tang Wei was standing behind Wei Chong and massaging his shoulders, and Lai Gu was enjoying the service of his three women, massaging his shoulders, massaging his hands, and massaging his feet. Who says that having more wives doesn't have any advantages? Why aren't they back yet? Lai Gu was a little annoyed from waiting. It has already been a few hours. If His Honor wants to take care of Zizi, wouldn't it just be a matter of seconds? Could it be? A scene appeared in Lai Gu's mind. Zizi was tied up and His Honor was fiercely whipping Zizi. "Your boss!" Wei Chong immediately stood up and shouted out. "Boss!" Lai Gu hurriedly stood up and shouted out. However, there was only the figure of the boss. Where did Zizi go? Could it be? Lai Gu looked at His Honor in disbelief and asked blankly, "Boss, where's Zizi?" Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette, then walked towards the tent and lightly puffed out a cigarette. "Dead!" Wei Chong and Lai Gu were completely stunned, as if they were struck by lightning. They were unable to imagine that the adorable Zizi who was in the past died just like that. Lai Gu was evidently even sadder as he sat on the ground and wailed, "Zizi, why are you so foolish? Don't you know how to run when you can't win? I haven't even had the chance to let you ride on me yet." Tears were flowing down Wei Chang's old face. Back then, Zizi still wanted to compete with me, but now... Suddenly, Lai Gu felt that there was one more person on his shoulder and said gravely, "Stop messing around, I'm not in the mood." However, even his ears were grabbed. Lai Gu immediately opened his eyes. "These women are too outrageous. Can't they see that I am in a bad mood?" However, looking at the swaying ponytail in front of him, Lai Gu was stunned as he slowly turned his head around. "Hee, big bone dragon, do you miss Zizi?" Zizi could be seen riding on Lai Gu's shoulder while grabbing onto Lai Gu's ears with both of her hands and said sweetly. Lai Gu didn't know how to express his joy at this moment. The expression on his face was very rich as he immediately soared into the sky. Meanwhile, Zizi shouted excitedly, "I finally got to ride on the big bone dragon." After flying into the clouds, Lai Gu immediately revealed his true form. Zizi, who was sitting on the bone dragon's back, looked very small. Roar! Lai Gu's excited dragon roar rang out in the sky. However, quite a few people heard it and thought that they were hallucinating. And Lai Gu did not roar a second time, because Yi Hua was warning him. Not long later, the two landed on the ground. Zizi pounced onto Wei Chang's embrace and hung onto him like a koala bear. "Gluttonous monster. Zizi saw that you cried just now." Wei Chong laughed lightly. "You saw wrongly." "Hee, I didn't see wrongly. You still don't want to admit it. When are you going to compete with me?" "That will require boss's approval." Wei Chong rubbed onto Zizi's head and laughed. Zizi pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw the four women beside her and her eyes immediately lit up. "Wow, what beautiful clothes, I want to wear them too." In actuality, the four maids were still in a state of shock. Originally, they thought that this little lowly was an enemy, but they didn't expect that in the end, she was actually an ally. The four maids still didn't know what was going on and appeared very respectful towards Zizi. "Where did you buy these clothes from?" "I want them too." Zizi touched onto the lace skirt and asked curiously. "Little lowly and uniform fetish." Wei Chong explained the relationship between everyone to Lai Gu, and Zizi immediately felt that it was unfair. "This won't do, all of you have women, Zizi wants a woman too." Wei Chong, Lai Gu. Chapter 157. Wei Chong chuckled and said, "Zizi, lower your voice. Don't disturb Madam's rest." "Madam? Who is Madam?" Zizi asked in confusion. Lai Gu stroked onto Zizi, who was only 1.2 meters tall, and said with a smile,
Boss's wife.
Ah, big cousin has a wife.
Yi Zizi exclaimed and immediately covered her mouth.
Wei Chong smiled. And with the recent events, Madam is already pregnant.
Ah!
Isn't his honor just a skeleton? How could it impregnate a human? This is too mystical. I'll go take a look.
After saying that, Yi Zizi trotted to the side of the tent and quietly walked in. Yi Zizi could see that his honor was carrying a human woman, and the human woman was so beautiful.
Yi Zizi felt that this human woman was the most beautiful human woman that she had ever seen. Yi Hua said faintly, "Be quiet." Yi Zizi nodded her head, then went closer to observe for a bit, then said in a low voice, "Your honor, can I hug madam?" "Be gentler." Yi Hua didn't reject Zizi. Zizi is still a child. Yi Zizi slowly crawled in between the two of them, then lightly hugged onto Qingya and buried her head into Qingya's chest. This action of Yi Zizi made Yi Hua a bit unhappy. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let her hug onto me.
However, the words that I have said are of enormous weight. Not even 20 kuan would be able to pull me back.
Madam's embrace is so warm, so comfortable. Yi Zizi narrowed her beautiful eyes. No wonder his honor would like this human woman. The cultivation world's king of vinegar couldn't stand it anymore and said, "All right, let go of me. Your honor, hug me for a while more, just a while more I beg of you." Qingya could be seen letting out a light moan, then stretching out her hand, she hugged onto Yi Zizi. Qingya had definitely mistaken Yi Zizi for Yi Hua. This infuriated the king of jealousy. Hugging a doll was one thing, but hugging a child? Still not letting go? Yi Hua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi felt wronged and said, "It's not me, it's madam who is hugging me and not letting go." Yi Hua could only forcefully pry open Yi Zizi's arms, then push Yi Zizi away from Yi Zizi. Sure enough, Yi Hua ended up hugging onto Qingya. "Your honor, you are so stingy," Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth and said. Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi, then said in a low voice, "Remember to wait for me at the county town tomorrow." "Okay, got it." Yi Zizi responded and left the tent. Madam's embrace was so comfortable, soft and soft. Yi Zizi said a few words to Wei Chong and left for the time being. The future is long. Yi Hua still didn't know how wrong his decision this time was. If he were to know what his little cousin would do in the future, he would definitely not be able to hold himself back from kicking her out and letting her fend for herself outside. While hugging onto the woman in his embrace, Yi Hua let out a breath. Yi Zizi doesn't like humans at all, and I didn't expect that she would fall in love with Qingya right away. From this it could be seen that Qingya is also very unique. Looking at those tender and beautiful red lips, Yi Hua couldn't help but kiss onto them. So King soft. So King comfortable. Right now, it was already late at night, and Wei Chong and Lai Gu had also walked into their own tent. Not long after, Lai Gu's tent began to shake crazily. However, Lai Gu was very smart to set up a barrier so as to not disturb his honor. Wei Chang's side was not as straightforward as Lai Gu. Looking at Lai Gu's tent, Wei Chong felt very envious.
"Uncle Wei, it is already so late. Quickly come in and rest."
Tang Wei opened up a corner of the tent and called out tenderly. Right now, Wei Chong really wanted to ask his honor for a stick of cigarette to calm himself down. "Uncle Wei!" Tang Wei shouted out with a red face. Wei Chong immediately revealed out a firm gaze.
"I will do as his honor said. I will just directly push her down."
Seeing that Uncle Wei was walking over, Tang Wei shyly hid into the tent. Her face was completely red, and she was extremely nervous. After entering the tent, the entire tent could be seen to be decorated with red as the theme. Looking at Tang Wei, who had her head lowered and had a bashful look on her face, Wei Chong swallowed his saliva. What should I do now? Seeing that Uncle Wei was looking at her blankly, Tang Wei lightly bit onto her lower lip, then slowly undid her clothes. Wei Chong was startled.
"Tang Wei, what are you doing?"
"I am taking off my clothes to sleep." Tang Wei's face was about to bleed. Uncle Wei is so stupid. What else can I do besides taking off my clothes? Wei Chong could be seen stretching out both of his hands. Tang Wei felt that her heart was about to jump out. Uncle Wei finally took the initiative. But Wei Chong put on Tang Wei's clothes and said with concern, "It is cold in the valley at night. It is better to wear clothes to sleep." Tang Wei. First blood, a drop of blood. Right now there was a huge shadow in Tang Wei's heart. "Uncle Wei, can you be a bit more honest?" Wei Chong let out a breath and immediately lied down. What should I do? How should I push Uncle Wei? Seeing that Uncle Wei lied down, Tang Wei also lied down beside Uncle Wei, and the tent became quiet again. After a long while, Tang Wei turned over and lightly hugged onto Wei Chong. Meanwhile, Wei Chong stretched out his hand and hugged onto Tang Wei's slender waist. This time, Tang Wei felt that there was hope as she said shyly, "Uncle Wei, don't you want to?" "I want to," Wei Chong said gravely. "Then why are you still in a daze?" Tang Wei felt that she was going to dig a hole in the ground. "I have already hinted to Uncle Wei crazily. Why isn't there any reaction from Uncle Wei?" Wei Chong sighed. "I want to sleep, but I really can't sleep." Puff. Double kill, double kill. Tang Wei immediately felt a wave of dizziness. "I really want to cry. Does anyone have any good ideas?" After a while, Tang Wei calmed herself down. "I don't believe that Uncle Wei doesn't understand. I have done my homework before coming here." Tang Wei slowly stretched out her slender hand and stroked onto Uncle Wei's chest. "Do you still not understand?" Wei Chong was very gratified as he laughed tenderly. "Xiao Tang, Uncle Wei isn't tired, I don't need you to massage me." Puff. Triple kill, triple kill. Uncle Wei actually feels that I am giving him a massage, my god. Why is it like this? Seems like I can only use my trump card. Tang Wei could be seen making up her mind. While stroking onto Wei Chang's chest, she let out a very alluring moan. Which man would be able to endure it? Tang Wei doesn't believe it. Wei Chong could be seen being startled as he asked with concern, "Xiao Tang, what's wrong? Is it because your respiratory tract is infected?" Puff. Quadra-kill, quadruple kill. Tang Wei felt as if she was struck by lightning from a clear sky, being struck by the lightning. Wei Chong said worriedly, "This valley is humid, you have to pay attention to your body, do you understand?" Tang Wei didn't speak. She was already unable to think normally. "In the past, I thought that Uncle Wei's illness was only mild, but from the looks of it, it is not just mild, it is very serious. This is an illness, I have to treat it." Right now, Tang Wei felt that she must definitely cure Uncle Wei's illness. No matter how shameless she is, she must save Uncle Wei. Tang Wei could be seen hugging onto Wei Chang's arm and said tenderly, "Uncle Wei, you can be at ease, today is my safe period, nothing will happen to me." Wei Chong stroked onto Tang Wei's hair and said gravely, "Uncle Wei knows with Uncle Wei here, not only today. You will be safe from today onwards." Pentakill, pentakill. "Ace, your woman has already been killed by you." Tang Wei felt that Uncle Wei was incurable. Oh my god. Chapter 158. Uncle Wei, I am going to sleep first, you should rest early too. Tang Wei was very hurt, being ignored by Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei went into a daze for a moment, then responded with an, "Oh. Why do I feel that Xiao Tang's mood is a bit low? It shouldn't be. Just now, he expressed his concern for me and also displayed his powerful strength. Why is it like this? Wasn't she supposed to be moved beyond belief?" This is how idol dramas come about. With deep doubts, Wei Chong gradually fell asleep. Although there wasn't any substantial progress, at least he had taken the first step and slept together. Just that, thinking that Xiao Tang is going to start school soon at that time, she might not be able to stay in leisure bar to work anymore. How should I solve this matter? This is really troublesome. Should I eat up the people in school? If Yi Hua knew that Wei Chong was so indecisive, he would definitely teach him a lesson. As a strong person, he should be a bit more overbearing, if not why would women listen to him? Carrying Qingya, Yi Hua took out the pajamas for Qingya to change into. Looking at her body, it was even more alluring than the first time he saw her. Every inch of her skin was emitting out a faint fragrance, and even had a beautiful luster. In any case, no one saw it, even if someone saw it, kill him to silence him. GGG. The sun revealed itself from behind the peak of Tsongtsong Mountain. A few rays of warm light shone onto the valley, causing people to feel a kind of sweet tiredness. Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes. Qingya, who was in his embrace, started to cry again. As expected, she is a whining monster. "Yi Hua, I am hungry." Qingya, who was in her sleep, mumbled. Her beautiful eyes were reluctant to even open. "If you are hungry, then get up and eat breakfast." "I don't want to get up. Sleeping is very comfortable." Qingya moved her body, putting on a more comfortable position.
Yihua laughed lightly. We are not at home.
Qingya slowly opened her eyes and looked around. The scene from yesterday immediately appeared in front of her eyes. You had a nightmare last night. Looking at Qingya's fearful gaze, Yihua said faintly.
Qingya's tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed.
Dream? You went to rest after eating yesterday. So it is like that. You scared me to death. Qingya patted her chest, immediately feeling that something was wrong. When did I wear pajamas? Yihua said, I helped you change. You are taking advantage of me again. Qingya said bashfully. Yihua pinched onto Baiji's tender face. All right, after you change your clothes, come out. After eating breakfast, we will go back. After finished speaking, Yihua walked out of the tent. The air here is rather comfortable.
Lighting up a stick of cigarette, the four maids had already woken up very early to prepare breakfast. While Wei Chong was sitting at the side of the water in a daze, Lai Gu had yet to wake up.
What's wrong? Yihua, who was standing at the side, asked.
Wei Chong was startled, then hurriedly stood up and shouted out in a low voice. Your Honor! Yihua puffed out a mouthful of smoke. It's still early in the morning, and you are already frowning.
How could Wei Chong possibly say such a thing out? It was too shameful. Your Honor is worrying too much. Subordinate is just thinking about a problem. Oh? What are you thinking about? Wei Chong really wanted to slap himself. I have so many excuses, yet I didn't use them, and I actually said this. I am going to have to face his Honor's examination again. I hope that I can still remember the places where I drew circles in the past. Think about his Honor's actions last night. Why did his Honor give the 9 demons punishing tower to Wang Debao and not someone else? Wei Chong was quick-witted and began speaking nonsense with a straight face. Yihua felt that this was interesting and continued listening to Wei Chong.
Wei Chong let out a mouthful of smoke, then said, Wang Debao seems to be from the south, but his wife is from the north.
I heard that this Wang Debao listens to everything that his wife says.
By giving the ancient godly item to him, his Honor is equivalent to giving it to the north.
This time, the South's reputation has been tarnished, and the South will definitely send a crusade against the North.
Yihua flicked away the ash from his cigarette, then revealed out a praising gaze. That's right, that's exactly what I meant.
Let them fight amongst themselves, and after the fight is over, we will come out and tell them the truth. I really want to see what kind of expression those humans would reveal. To be able to toy with humans in the palm of one's hand, it truly feels great. Your Honor is wise, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Yihua patted onto Wei Chang's shoulder. Not bad, you even know how to speak a few sentences now. When subordinate has nothing to do, subordinate would still read some books about humans. The corner of Yihua's mouth curved upwards. All right, go and call Lai Gu to wake up. After eating, we will go and fetch Yi Zizi. Yes. At this time, Qingya finished changing her clothes and came out from the tent. She could be seen opening up her arms, closing her eyes and enjoying the pure air. Unexpectedly, a smell of smoke drifted over. Qingya rolled her eyes at Yihua, then went to see what they were going to eat for breakfast. Under Qingya's lead, everyone made a sumptuous breakfast. Sitting at the dining table, Yihua naturally sat at the main seat and said, After eating we will leave. Leaving in such a hurry? Qingya seemed to have not had enough fun yet.
Yihua took a bite of the bread, then said indifferently, I am going to fetch a cousin sister. She wants to enter the city to study.
When the time comes, you go and make the arrangements. Oh, is that so? I will make a call and make the arrangements now. How old is your cousin sister? Middle school or high school? Qingya took out her phone and asked. Middle school or high school?
Yihua looked towards Wei Chong and Lai Gu, and the latter lowered his head, expressing that he did not know.
She is 8 years old. Yihua himself did not know either, because he had never studied before. Qingya thought for a while, then muttered, if she is 8 years old, she should be attending primary school, around grade 3. Yes, that's right. Yihua said. Qingya immediately gave a call to the general manager of Long and City, Lu Hang, and asked him to go and make arrangements. After all, the school was about to start soon. Yihua, when the time comes, give me your cousin's information. Qingya said. Speaking of information, Yihua felt that Yi Zizi should be an unregistered citizen. When the time comes, I will just let that Xiaojiu go and settle it. Okay, I'll give it to you when we get back.
After dinner, everyone left the valley. To Lai Gu's women, this day and night were very exciting. Of course, Lai Gu himself was also very satisfied. However, to Wei Chong and Tang Wei, it was simply indescribable. In actuality, the person who was the happiest was still Yi Hua. After all, he managed to subdue Qingya. Look at the current Qingya. Qingya is currently leaning into Yi Hua's embrace, and Qingya is currently unable to leave Yi Hua's embrace. After getting on the highway, Qingya, who was lying in Yi Hua's embrace, asked curiously, "Yi Hua, why didn't I hear that you have a cousin sister?"
"Oh, long time no see."
Qingya punched Yi Hua's fist. "All right then, you are hiding everything from me." Lifting up Qingya's chin, Yi Hua immediately kissed onto Qingya's chin, causing Qingya to be dumbfounded.
So annoying. There are still people here.
Just treat them as if they are transparent. Wei Chong and Lai Gu were very hurt, especially Wei Chong. Why is it that even his honor is able to do it so easily, but I am unable to? I should take this opportunity to properly learn his honor's flirting skills.
Chapter 159.
In the Kayan that was following behind, Tang Wei was a bit disappointed as she turned her head and looked outside of the car window.
"Tang Wei, did you do it last night?"
Bai Xiaozhen, who was sitting at the side, asked in a low voice.
"Sigh. If only I did it last night."
Tang Wei shook her head, then let out a deep sigh. Thinking about how Uncle Wei acted last night, she felt both angry and funny at the same time. Iran, who was sitting at the front, also became interested. She turned her head and said with a smile, "Xiao Tang, you are already dressed so sexily. Could it be that Uncle Wei did not have any reaction?" Gugu seemed to have injected stimulants last night, and Wuxia was even more miserable. Sure enough, Wuxia, who was driving the car, blushed, and Bai Xiaozhen even pouted. "Iran, don't say any more. Look at the two of you to."
Iran laughed.
Tang Wei let out a deep sigh again. Other people are so blessed, and yet I am worrying about this kind of thing. Forget it, let's just let nature take its course. 2 hours later, Yi Hua finally got off the highway and arrived at a small town. Yi Hua chose a remote location to put on an act for the entire time.
"Have we arrived?"
Qingya got up from Yi Hua's embrace and opened the car window to take a look. Yi Hua nodded his head and arrived at the agreed location, but Yi Zizi had not arrived yet.
"She couldn't have gone to prank me again, right? I'm a bit hungry."
Qingya rubbed onto her flat stomach and said embarrassedly. She was a pregnant woman, so it was normal for her to be hungry. After all, the big ones have to eat, the small ones have to eat too. "Madam, the food in this small town is rather small."
Wei Chong took a look and said.
Qingya's eyes lit up. "Isn't there a Xiaoxian snack there?
Let's go there."
Yi Hua had tasted this Xiaoxian snack before, and it was not bad. "All right, let's treat it as lunch."
Yi Hua approved.
The appearance of 2 Kayans in this small town still attracted quite a bit of attention. Curious about what kind of people were sitting inside, the roadside stalls all paid attention to them. When they saw the people that got off the car, all of the male's eyes almost popped out, especially the one that was in the car at the back. He was simply about to spurt out blood.
"I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore."
As celebrities, the 3 of them had already secretly changed their appearances before they alighted from the car. This was also done by the Lai Gu sect. It was more convenient for them to go out and play together. After all, it was more exciting outside than at home. Although the beauty in the car behind made people spurt blood, the woman in the car in front helped them stop the bleeding. It was a sacred and inviolable feeling, so beautiful that it felt unreal. But it was such a woman, that willowy waist was actually hugged by a man. God damn it! But for some reason, everyone felt that this group of people seemed to revolve around this man. It was really incomprehensible.
Wasn't he just good-looking?
This was really an era where looks mattered. Right now, Yi Hua was also contacting Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi expressed her apologies and said that she would be coming over immediately. There was no one in the snack bar in Shaoxian County. The boss was sitting at the table. There was a mobile phone, dumpling wrappers, and minced meat on the table. He was watching a drama while making dumplings. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the boss looked up and was shocked. He hurriedly rubbed his hands and asked with a smile,
What would you like to eat? Qingya looked at the menu on the wall and said faintly, a set of steamed dumplings. Yihua, what do you want to eat? Stir-fried rice noodle. Add an extra egg. Yihua said faintly. Lai Gu pursed his lips. Give me a set of mixed noodles. Wei Chong asked Tang Wei concernedly, Xiao Tang, what do you want to eat? Anything will do. Tang Wei's mood was a bit gloomy, but it was also normal. Last night, I had already hinted at Uncle Wei so crazily, but Uncle Wei did not even have any reaction. Thinking up to here, Tang Wei was greatly shocked. Does it mean that people can't get it up after reaching middle age? And Uncle Wei was embarrassed to say it out. I am too stupid. Isn't this the same as rubbing salt on Uncle Wei's wound? I shouldn't be doing this. I should think of a way to help Uncle Wei nourish his body and recuperate for a bit. Then, I will go and inquire about the old prescriptions of the people and prescribe some medicine for Uncle Wei to eat. Wei Chong was still looking at the menu, and Tang Wei who was behind him had already given him the title of impotence. Give me a ginseng black chicken soup then. Wei Chong said. Tang Wei had an as-expected look on her face. Even Uncle Wei himself knows to nourish his body. My pitiful Uncle Wei has fallen into a chronic illness after reaching middle age. In the future, I have to take good care of him and not let Uncle Wei get injured again. Thinking about last night, Uncle Wei was definitely very gloomy. Last night, Wei Chong was indeed very gloomy. The four of them sat at a table, and very quickly, the steamed dumplings were served. Qingya felt that the steamed dumplings were pretty good. Yihua, does your cousin live here? Qingya asked curiously. That's right, I just want to go out and see the world. Yihua could only say this. Qingya said tenderly, girls should go out and see the world in the first place, only then would they not be cheated by bad men. This is scolding the locust tree while pointing at the mulberry tree. Wei Chong and Lai Gu really wanted to change to another table. The madam is too formidable, to the point that even his honor is speechless. Then you have to go out and see the world more. Yihua was not someone who was easy to provoke. Qingya snorted and no longer paid attention to Yihua. You only know how to talk back, zzz. The sound of the door attracted everyone's attention. The boss who was currently working looked towards the door, and the spoon that was in his hand even dropped onto the ground. This lowly is simply asking for my life. Yi Zizi could be seen wearing a light blue off-shoulder princess dress. Her beautiful collarbone was faintly discernible, the butterfly knot on her waist was cute and moving, and layers upon layers of lace adorned the beautiful dress. She was wearing a big round hat on her head, and her twin ponytails were hanging very naturally behind her head. Different from yesterday, her ponytails were slightly curled up today. Seems like she might have gone to have her hair permed just now. Her pair of small hands were even wearing long gloves, and she was even holding onto a cute little umbrella. She looked just like a little loli that walked out from a two-dimensional world. Looking at Yi Zizi who was dressed up like this, Yihua couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. She is your cousin? Qingya mumbled and asked. Yihua nodded his head. I feel that she has seen more of the world than me. Qingya felt that this little loli was a princess from a European royal family. For her to be dressed up so gorgeously, it seemed as if she was going to attend a very important banquet. Yi Zizi was indeed thinking like that. In any case, it was her first time meeting the madam, so of course, it had to be a bit more grand. Thus, she forgot about Yihua's words. Big brother, Yi Zizi waved her hand excitedly, and her pair of eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. If it was possible, Yihua didn't want to respond. Coming. Hello, big sister-in-law. I am Yi Zizi. Yi Zizi directly ran in front of Qingya and used that lowly voice to act cute. In actuality, Qingya had never seen such a cute little loli before, but why do I feel that she looks familiar? I seem to have seen her in my dream last night. Of course, Qingya had seen Yi Zizi who was lying in the coffin before. Just that, Yihua said that it was a dream. If I give birth to a daughter, I will definitely dress up like this too. Yi Zizi, you are so cute. It was rare for Qingya to reveal a smile towards a stranger. Hee hee, big sister-in-law, can Zizi hug you? Chapter 160. This was the death stare of a supreme being. No, the stare of the Vinegar King. What are you hugging? Yihua shouted out coldly. In this world, I am the only one who is capable of hugging. Sure enough, Yi Zizi's hand that was stretched out immediately retracted back, then lowered her head, causing Qingya's heart to ache endlessly.
What are you doing, yelling at a girl?
Qingya glared at Yi Hua petulantly, then squatted down and lightly hugged onto Yi Zizi. Ignore him, he is the king of jealousy. Yi Zizi's face immediately brightened up, and with a smile on her face, she leaned into Qingya's embrace. Sister-in-law, your embrace is so warm. This little girl was too good at talking, just like Ali. Zizi is also very pretty. Cousin-in-law likes her very much. What do you like? Pay the bill and leave. Yi Hua was in a bad mood. Standing up, he walked to the door and lit up a cigarette. Seems like I didn't burn enough yesterday.
Qingya laughed bitterly. Don't care about him.
Zizi will listen to big sister-in-law. Whatever big sister-in-law says, Zizi will do it. In the past, Yi Zizi did not have any backing, but right now with Qingya as her backing, Yi Zizi's career would definitely soar.
And so obedient.
Qingya stretched out her hand and pinched onto Yi Zizi's little face. Wei Chong and Lai Gu were immediately startled. However, Yi Zizi didn't react excessively. She was still smiling, which made the two of them feel relieved. They were afraid that Yi Zizi would instantly kill the madam. Other than Yi Hua, Qingya was the second person who dared to pinch Yi Zizi's face. No. Qingya was the first human who dared to pinch Yi Zizi's face. Yi Hua gave a serious warning to Yi Zizi, while Yi Zizi expressed that it was sister-in-law who was holding her hand, and that she was being wronged. Only a fool would believe you. Half an hour ago, Qingya was still snuggling up to Yi Hua, and right now, Yi Zizi was sitting in the middle of the car. Sit in the car at the back. Yi Hua said. Yi Zizi immediately revealed an expression of fear, then immediately hugged onto Qingya. Pouncing onto Qingya was a matter of course. Qingya patted onto Yi Zizi's shoulder, then said to Yi Hua, "Why are you being so fierce for? The one who is supposed to receive it is you, and the one who is supposed to be scolding right now is also you." Wei Chong and Lai Gu pretended not to hear anything. Lai Gu, when we reach Long An City, bring Yi Zizi to look for a house to stay in. Yi Hua decided to change his way of thinking. Before even waiting for Lai Gu to reply, Qingya said unwillingly, "You are letting an 8-year-old little girl stay outside by herself. Is there any big cousin like you?" 8 years old? Even if it wasn't 8,000, it would at least be 800. Sister-in-law Zizi is scared, Yi Zizi said pitifully. Yi Hua, you don't have to argue with Yi Hua anymore. Yutong's room is big enough. Just let Zizi and Yutong sleep in the same room. Qingya gave a suggestion that could not be opposed. But was it really okay to let two Chinibyu girls sleep together? Aren't you afraid of causing a commotion? If Qingya knew about Yi Hua's future development, she would definitely agree to Yi Hua's request. Going out to live was also a kind of release. After all, a child should live independently as early as possible. Yi Hua glared at Qingya. If anything happens, you settle it yourself. Let's settle it then. Qingya snorted. Eldest cousin-in-law, you are so good to Zizi. Yi Zizi smiled sweetly, which melted Qingya's heart. Just that, when Qingya saw that Yi Zizi's pupils were scarlet red, she became very puzzled. Zizi, why are your eyes red? Did you wear cosmetic contact lenses? Yi Zizi blinked her beautiful eyes. No, Zizi was born like this. Although it was rather weird, this pair of red pupils and Yi Zizi were still quite effective. 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the group of people arrived at the entrance of Leisure Bar. Qingya brought Yi Zizi into the bar first, while Yi Hua had to give a few instructions. Do not slacken your intelligence work, report to me on time every day. Also, let Xiao Jiu go and handle Yi Zizi's identity information. Yi Hua said faintly. Yes. Yes. Yi Hua nodded his head, lit up a cigarette and walked into Leisure Bar. Wei Chong unbuckled his seatbelt and said, "You can go back first, I will go and send Xiao Tang off." Gluttonous monster, what are you talking about? Send her off by car, you are even riding a bicycle to send her off. Right now, Lai Gu was very extravagant. Lai Gu could be seen opening the car door and saying, "This car is for you, don't be too stingy when chasing after a woman, sometimes, you also need to give her some face." Wei Chong went into a daze for a moment, then felt that what Lai Gu said was right. Not having a car was indeed inconvenient. I won't be polite then.
Lai Gu immediately revealed out a crafty smile. Then, I will hand over the matter that your honor instructed me just now to you. Bye-bye. After pausing for a moment, Lai Gu added another sentence. Grab hold of the opportunity at night.
As a brother, I can only help you to this step. Wei Chong knew that Lai Gu definitely did not have good intentions by gifting a car for no reason. However, this kind of small matter can be handed over to Death Mage to take care of. After sending Xiao Tang back, I still have to go to work at night.
Not long later, Tang Wei sat on the car and cried out in surprise. Uncle Wei, why did you suddenly want to buy this car?
It was definitely Lai Gu who said it again. It's convenient for me to pick you up. Wei Chong stretched out his hand and stroked onto Tang Wei's cheek. But this car is too expensive. It's fine, Uncle Wei can afford it. Wei Chong laughed and headed towards Tang Wei's residence. Lai Gu went back as well. I haven't even handed over my public allowance for today. In Leisure Bar. Just when Yi Hua walked up the stairs, he heard Qing Yutong's cry of surprise and Yi Zizi's cry of surprise. Pushing open Qing Yutong's door and taking a look, even Qingya went into a daze at the side. Qing Yutong could be seen wearing a level 3 helmet, a level 3 bulletproof vest, a frying pan was hanging on her butt, and she was also wearing a teacher's uniform. Yi Zizi's gaze was fiery, as if she had found a like-minded comrade. Brother-in-law, big sister, you two only went out for a day, and the child is already so big. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise and carried Yi Zizi up. This little loli is too cute.
Yi Zizi felt that this aunt's embrace was not as warm as her sister-in-law's, but it was still rather comfortable.
Well, aunt, you are going to suffocate me to death.
Yi Zizi couldn't take it anymore. This aunt is too savage.
Aunt! Qing Yutong immediately collapsed.
Forget about being called aunt by Ali, right now, even this little loli wants to call me aunt. Don't you think that I should be angry?
Yutong, she is called Yi Zizi. She is your brother-in-law's cousin. Qingya explained.
Qing Yutong's eyes lit up. Why call me aunt? Call me big sister. I am your sister-in-law's little sister. Since she is sister-in-law's little sister, I will give her face.
Hello, big sister. Mommy, this is too cute. Where did you buy this princess dress from?
Not bad. I bought a lot of it too, but I didn't dare to wear it, afraid that other people would say that I am a lunatic.
It's all right now. We can wear it together. Yi Hua said faintly, 2 lunatics. Really? Zizi also has a lot of beautiful princess dresses. Zizi, do you know what cosplay is? Yi Zizi shook her head, indicating that she was a newbie. Come, big sister has a lot of beautiful clothes. Let me share with you. Chapter 161. Qingya had originally thought that Yi Zizi would stick to her very much, but I didn't expect that. Yi Zizi would be snatched away by her younger sister. It's just a few pieces of clothing. Do you think that it'll hurt or not? Yi Hua walked in front of Qingya and said faintly, this is just the beginning. In the future, you will have to suffer. After finished speaking, Yi Hua walked into the bedroom and prepared to take a bath. Qingya seemed to be able to see through why Yi Hua was worried. Look at that smug look on her little sister's face. As if I have a lot of beautiful clothes that you don't. Meanwhile, Zizi's eyes were shining brightly, and her face was filled with envy. Letting out a sigh, Qingya walked into the bedroom, and just happened to see that Yi Hua was currently changing his clothes. Originally, Qingya wanted to avoid Yi Hua for a while, but thinking that they were already an old couple, what was the point of avoiding Yi Hua? What's wrong? You're not going to seduce them anymore? Go to hell. Qingya snorted. Since you asked Yi Zizi to come over and live with me, you will have to be responsible for her in the future. Yi Hua said faintly, then walked into the bathroom. Qingya let out a deep sigh, then sat on the bedside and covered her face. Yi Zizi doesn't seem to be that lowly that she looks like on the surface. At this moment, in the Bai family in the far north, Bai Cixin held the 9 demons punishing tower in her hands and studied it carefully. Meanwhile, the black mist above the 9 demons punishing tower slowly wrapped around Bai Cixin's hands. Wang Debao and Bai Qi stood at the side. Honey, be careful. Wang Debao shouted worriedly. Bai Cixin shook her head and said softly, I'm fine. Don't be nervous. Sure enough, the black fog only circled around for a while before shrinking back into the tower. We have the 9 demons punishing pagoda. Our Bai family can also become an aristocratic family. Bai Cixin slowly put down the 9 demons punishing tower. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the yearning for power. "Congratulations on getting your wish, big sister," Bai Qi said with a smile. Wang Debao was the same. "Congratulations, my wife." Bai Cixin chuckled. "Our Bai family is not the only one who has an ancient godly device. The Xiao family also has one. However, there is only one spot." "Sis, why don't we destroy the Xiao family?" Bai Qi suggested. Bai Cixin picked up the teacup, blew on it gently, and took a sip. "I want to, but there are rules. Xiao Yi is at his weakest right now. This is indeed a good opportunity." Wang Debao said in a deep voice. "How about I go there and probe it first?" "There's no need for that, so as to avoid alerting the enemy. Seizing the ancient godly item and squeezing into the aristocratic families is only the first step, and our next step is not just the aristocratic families, but also the 3 big shots that restrict the aristocratic families." Speaking of the 3 tycoons, Wang Debao and Bai Qi's expressions became grave. In order to become an aristocratic family, the first thing they needed was an ancient godly item. Every 5 years there would be a selection. Originally, the Xiao family had already entered the ranks of aristocratic families, but unfortunately, another ancient godly item had appeared, causing them to have to fight for that slot. For the aristocratic families, the first reaction was that they were mysterious, but for the 3 giants above the aristocratic families, they were even more elusive. After all, no one from the 3 giants had ever appeared before. No one knew what they were capable of, where they were or how strong they were. However, there was one thing that could be seen clearly, and that was that all of the aristocratic families were restricted by the 3 big shots. If not, they would have fought with each other a long time ago. Who didn't want to collect more ancient godly items? Thus, the 3 big shots declared that all aristocratic families could only possess one ancient godly item, and they were not allowed to participate in the worldly plundering. Those who violated this rule would be exterminated. From this point, it could be seen how big of a risk Tang Wushuang had taken to invite Yi Xiao over. Fortunately, Yi Xiao left in the end. Bai Cixin put down the teacup in her hand and said faintly, "Hubby, have you transferred all of your companies over? Once this matter is out of the south, you won't be able to go there anymore." "Wife, don't worry, the headquarters in Gaohai City is just an empty shell." Wang Debao was a little smug. Bai Cixin praised, "Hubby, not bad, you even know how to prepare for a rainy day." "Learning from my wife. I definitely have some experience." "Then, hubby, what kind of experience did you conclude this time?" Bai Cixin said with a gentle smile. Wang Debao was instantly stupefied. Even Bai Qi couldn't bear to look straight at him. "Who asked you to act cool?" Wang Debao coughed lightly and said gravely, "This time, under the wise leadership of my wife, it wasn't easy for us to obtain a great victory. If it wasn't for my wife's intelligence, how could I, your husband, be able to succeed so easily?" Bai Cixin covered her mouth and laughed lightly. "To be able to receive such a high evaluation from my husband, I, your wife, am overwhelmed by the favor." "It's what I should do, it's what I should do." Wang Debao laughed mischievously. He was looking forward to the reward very much. After withdrawing her smile, Bai Cixin asked seriously, "Hubby, tell me what happened last night in detail, don't leave out any details." "All right." In the next hour, Wang Debao fully displayed his eloquence, turning himself into an undying hero, and obtained the most valuable treasure. Brother-in-law is truly amazing, to be able to deceive those few families. Bai Qi sighed. Chapter 162. Zijin City. Within Tang family's manor, Tang Wushuang was currently sitting on the sofa while trembling with fear. Behind him were his 2 wives, Quan Onrong and Mu Jia. A middle-aged man was sitting on the sofa in the middle. His hair was smooth and shiny, thick eyebrows, big eyes, tall nose bridge, and the shape of his face was even more so the golden ratio. Just that, his dressing was a bit casual, with a shirt, flowery shorts, and flip-flops. The man looked at his phone, then picked up the teacup and took a sip, and his brows slightly wrinkled. Upon seeing that, Mu Jia immediately walked forward and personally poured the tea for him. Suddenly the man shouted out, "This damned author is breaking a chapter again. It's fine if he updates slowly. He even breaks chapters every day, and he even shamelessly asks for tips, ask for recommendation votes, Wushuang. Send me a box of razor blades to this author. Forget it. Directly find this author for me and ask him to update for me every day. If he doesn't update, I'll beat him to death. Tang Wushuang laughed dryly. All right, master, I'll do it immediately. The man's name was Gue Chengren. 5 years ago, he saved Tang Wushuang, who was on the verge of death, and taught him some skills. After that, Tang Wushuang returned to the city and showed off his capabilities, taking back everything that belonged to him. Gue Chengren put down his phone, then picked up the teacup again and took a sip. It has been a few years since we last met, Wushuang, your harem has increased again. It is all thanks to master. If not, how would Wushuang be able to achieve what he has today? Tang Wushuang said sincerely.
He was actually rather unfamiliar with his master. His master could be said to be an existence that came and went without a trace.
Woman, you have indeed achieved something, but your authority did not change at all. Master is a bit disappointed. Gue Chengren put down the teacup and took out a stick of cigarette. Tang Wushuang immediately lit up the cigarette and said, Master, disciple has already reached this stage. Disciple is also powerless. It is too difficult for disciple to climb any further. With your current mentality, it would be good if you don't drop. Gue Chengren took a puff and said disdainfully.
Tang Wushuang lowered his noble head and did not have any temper in front of his master.
Master can poke me to death with just a finger. The reason why Master came this time is to ask you why you didn't manage to seize the ancient godly item. The reason why Master came this time is to ask you why you didn't seize the ancient godly item. Quan On Rong could be heard saying, Master, you can't blame Wushuang entirely. He called Yi Xiao over, but Yi Xiao didn't keep his promise, and also, An Rong, don't speak. Tang Wushuang shouted in a low voice. Gue Chengren's gaze turned intent, and he slowly said, Wushuang, not only do you not have the drive to improve, but the women you teach are also lawless. Women shouldn't interrupt when men are talking. Quan On Rong's pretty face instantly collapsed. You two leave first. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Originally, I thought that by bringing the two of them by my side, they would be of some use. After all, their brains were very good, but I didn't expect that it would be like this. Mu Jia pulled Quan On Rong away quickly. Her husband's master was moody and very strange. He could even be so engrossed in reading novels. Master, they are not sensible. Please don't be angry. Tang Wushuang fawned. Right now, in this kind of situation, he still needed his master's help. They don't know any better. And you don't know any better either. This woman has messed up your mind. Tang Wushuang hurriedly replied, Yes, what teacher said is correct. Back then, I saved you on a whim and taught you some cultivation techniques. You performed well in the past few years, but this year has disappointed me. When you go out, don't say that you are my disciple. Tang Wushuang lowered his head and listened to his master's lecture. Gue Chengren let out a sigh of relief. The 9-devil punishment tower is in by family's hands? Hearing that master changed the topic, and it was an ancient godly item, Tang Wushuang felt that his hope was ignited again. As long as master is willing to make a move, then everything will go smoothly. That is indeed what the scout reported. After Wang Debao obtained the 9-devil punishment tower, he hurriedly rushed to Zijin City and went to Bai family. Gue Chengren paused for a moment. Right now, Bai family has an ancient godly item. Xiao family also has one, but you don't. Could it be that you still want master to help you snatch it? Disciple doesn't dare. The rules of aristocratic families cannot be changed. If you want to squeeze in, you have to snatch it. Which family do you think is easy to snatch? Gue Chengren asked faintly. Is there a need to ask? It is definitely Xiao family's Shenyuan sword. Xiao family. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Since you know it is Xiao family, why didn't you make a move? Gue Chengren asked back. Tang Wushuang still remembered their old relationship. After all, Xiao Yi had helped him quite a bit back then. Now, it is really hard to stab him in the back. When one is in a great position, one will slay a god, not to mention an individual. Disciple has learned his lesson. The living room instantly quietened down, and Tang Wushuang didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I heard that everyone died last night, and all of them were sucked dry? Gue Chengren suddenly asked. And the news just spread out, and the 3 major powers in the north also went missing. Gue Chengren said calmly. Seems like it was done by the person in the coffin. Master, you know about it. If I didn't guess wrongly, all of you fell into a trap. Gue Changren laughed lightly, picked up the Snickers bar on the table, opened the packaging, and slowly chewed on it. Tang Wushuang turned pale with fright, and he instantly understood something.
Master, compared to this person? We are about the same.
Tang Wushuang's heart sunk. Master actually has such a high evaluation of this person. Unimaginable. That's right. What is going on with that black robe? Gue Changren continued to ask. Tang Wushuang told him the cause of the matter, and Gue Changren fell into contemplation after listening to it. After a long time, Gue Changren said faintly, "This black robe isn't a big deal, the important point is the person behind him." But right now, everyone in the circle is saying that the black robe is the boss.
Gue Changren's gaze turned cold. I should have really killed all of those women of yours.
Did your brain get clamped by women until you became stupid? You can't even see through this kind of scheme. But, Wushuang, let Master ask you a question. When have you seen Master make a move before?
Tang Wushuang swallowed his saliva. Indeed, I have never seen Master make a move before.
Never. A truly powerful person would not even spare a glance for ants. In his eyes, ants are merely dust. Gue Changren said in a deep voice, as if he had met his match. Master is powerful like this. Tang Wushuang immediately bootlicked. As expected, it is useful. Gue Changren leaned on the sofa, and with a deep gaze he said faintly, Master has a feeling that the dispute between the North and the South was planned by this bar. Wushuang, investigate this bar properly. Disciple understands, Master. Then who exactly is the boss of this bar? Gue Changren let out a heavy sigh. If it isn't that boss, then it is that security guard. One of them is the mastermind behind the scenes. All right, Master is going to rest now. Master, do you want Disciple to make arrangements for you? It is better for you to keep those useless women for yourself. Don't forget to help Master tie up that author. If he doesn't write, I will break his legs. Chapter 163. In another place in Zijin City, it had lost its former glory and seemed very gloomy. At night, the entire mansion would be pitch black like a haunted house. This was the once glorious Xiao mansion. At this moment, Xiao Yi was sitting cross-legged in a secret room and cultivating.
However, could his heart calm down? From his furrowed brows, it could be seen that he could not calm down.
His beloved wife had died, but he did not even dare to hold a funeral. Her body was still sealed in ice. His son only knew that his mother had gone on a business trip. It had only been a few days and he was already clamoring for his mother to come back. However, could she come back? She could not. Opening his eyes, Xiao Yi's eyes were bloodshot. The battle with the black-robed man had caused his blood to flow in reverse and left behind a root that could not be removed. His beloved wife's death had damaged his heart and veins. With these kinds of injuries, there was no way he could recover and he would not be able to hold on for long. However, he was dead. What about them? What about the children? His former enemies would turn their spears to them. Thinking about this, blood flowed out from the corner of Xiao Yi's mouth. He was beyond cure. Dragging his heavy body, Xiao Yi opened the door to the secret room. However, the moment he walked out, his slightly bent back straightened. He swallowed his bitterness to prevent the women from worrying. Enduring the chaotic spirit energy in his body, Xiao Yi came to the main hall. Who would have thought that all the women would be gathered together as if they were having a meeting? Big brother Xiao, you came out of seclusion. Yu Qi quickly went up to support him. Her stomach was already slightly bulging. Looking at Yu Qi's stomach, Xiao Yi squeezed out a smile. Are you all right? Big brother Xiao, don't worry about us. We are fine. Yu Qi supported Xiao Yi as they sat on the main seat. Xu Nan's face was calm as she walked to her husband's side and wanted to take his pulse. Xiao Yi knew what Xu Nan wanted to do, so he dodged. Not only was his seclusion useless, but his injuries had worsened. He did not want them to know about this. Even if they wanted to know, this was not the time. Xu Nan frowned and was very worried. The more her husband acted like this, the more serious his injuries were. What are you guys talking about? Xiao Yi tried to maintain a relaxed state. He had been in seclusion these past few days and did not know about the outside world. Yu Qi smiled and said, Nothing, it's just company matters. Do you need to do this to the company's matters? Just say it, no matter how big the matter is, it is already in the past. Xiao Yi laughed bitterly. If I can go back in time, I should learn from Wang Debao and return the money. He had thoroughly played out the phrase, losing one's wife and losing one's soldiers after losing one's wife. The girls looked at each other. Finally, Shunan told them what had happened these days. Wu Shuang is here to give money? Xiao Yi felt gratified. At least he hadn't made friends with this brother for nothing. Yu Qi didn't understand it that way. Brother Xiao, when Wu Shuang came that day, you were already in seclusion, and he looked a little absent-minded. I don't think it was as simple as giving him money. Maybe he's worried about my injuries. Wu Shuang isn't as bad as the other families. Xiao Yi's voice wasn't strong and was very weak. The women did not continue to speak, lest they made their husbands angry. They had to take it slow, because the next matter would be even more serious. After a long time, Xiao Yi listened to everything and didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he let out a sigh of relief. The heavens wanted my Xiao family to die. The women didn't say anything. They didn't want to continue to provoke their men. Yu Qi said seriously, Brother Xiao, the Bai family might do something bad to us. We should plan ahead. Bai family? I'm afraid it's not just the Bai family. The Xian Yuan sword in my hand is a hot potato that everyone wants. Xiao Yi said coldly. If a tiger fell to the plains, it would be bullied by dogs. Brother Xiao, how about we hand over the sword and let them do whatever they want? Xu Nan's suggestion was probably what all the women were thinking. If the sword was gone, it was fine as long as the person was still alive. However, Xiao Yi didn't think so. If the sword was gone, it would only speed up the process of death. They didn't dare to do anything now because they didn't know how injured they were. Once they found out, they would probably attack. The only thing they could do now was to use the Xian Yuan sword to exchange for their lives. Don't worry, I have plans. Xiao Yi smiled. If the sword couldn't exchange for their safety, then he would exchange for his life. The women had blind trust in their husbands. They thought that Xiao Yi really had a good idea, so they were happy. Brother Xiao, let's eat first. Only when we are full will we have the strength to do things. Yu Qi said tenderly. Together with Xu Nan, she helped Xiao Yi to stand up. And Xu Nan took this opportunity to immediately check her husband's pulse. Her face that was originally still red immediately became pale like a piece of white paper. This kind of pulse is the sign of death. That's why the words I said just now were all lies. Brother Xiao is going to die. Xiao Yi took a look at Xu Nan. His meaning was very clear. He was telling her not to speak carelessly. The happy atmosphere on the dining table was no longer like it was in the past. Meanwhile, everyone in the bar started eating. Crayfish feast. Qingya was immediately stupefied. This is revenge for me for not serving him well during those few days. Not only is he a jealous king, he is also a miser. Wow, crayfish, Zizi loves it the most. Yi Zizi immediately wore her gloves. Yi Hua coughed lightly and hinted to Qingya. Qingya bit onto her lips and helplessly wore her gloves to peel the crayfish. After dipping the crayfish meat into the gravy, she placed it into her husband's bowl. Yi Hua was very satisfied. This crayfish meat is becoming more and more fragrant. Qing Yutong looked at the two of them. Just going out for a trip and they have already reconciled. This is really fast. Looking at big sister's expression, needless to say, brother-in-law definitely won. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. How could Qing Yutong let go of this time to flatter Yi Hua? If I want to have meat to eat, I have to flatter brother-in-law. Big brother, here, Zizi will peel the crayfish for you. Yi Zizi and Qing Yutong's mentality was not much different from each other. As for Yi Hua, he couldn't care so much about it. This is the treatment that a supreme overlord should enjoy, comfortable. Yi Zizi, go to school half a month later and study. Yi Hua said faintly while eating the crayfish meat and drinking the iced Sprite. You are letting an old monster go to school. Aren't you afraid that she will eat all of the teachers in the school? As expected, upon hearing about going to school, Yi Zizi collapsed. Big brother, I don't want to go to school, I want to eat chicken. Yi Hua and Qing Ya's gaze immediately looked towards Qing Yutong, while Qing Yutong pretended not to hear anything and continued peeling the crayfish. Big sister, eat the crayfish, brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. Qing Yutong, how can you lead a child astray? Qing Ya criticized harshly. It has only been a few hours, And you have already made an innocent and pure lowly degenerate to the point where she wants to eat chicken without even going to school. Qing Yutong raised up both of her hands and said with grievance, "Brother-in-law, big sister, you really can't blame me for this." After finished speaking, Qing Yutong even pulled onto Yi Zizi's skirt. "Big brother, big sister-in-law, you really can't blame big sister Qing. Big sister only told me how to operate the game, and also how to control the gun and snatch the airdrop. It was Zizi who got addicted to it." Yi Zizi said pitifully. "Pooh." Chapter 164. Qingya glared angrily at her little sister and shouted out, "Qing Yutong, it's fine if you degenerate yourself, but Zizi is still a child, and you are already bringing her to play games at such a young age? Are you going to bring her to the disco too?" Yi Zizi's eyes lit up at the mention of disco dancing. This was something new.
However, she remained silent and pretended not to hear anything.
Qing Yutong felt wronged to death. This little troublemaker, tricking me. And you are still pretending to be more pitiful than me. Sister, don't be angry. Eat some prawns to calm down. I have no appetite, Qingya said angrily.
Thinking about how after my child was born, I was led astray by this aunt of mine, I felt that my head was a bit giddy.
Yihua, why don't you reprimand her? Qingya was not happy with herself scolding Qingya, and she even wanted to pull Yihua along to scold Qingya's little sister. Yihua knew Yi Zizi very well, and he said, "I've already said it before, you will be responsible for yourself." Qing Yutong became happy. "I didn't expect that brother-in-law would stand on my side this time. I am so happy." Yi Zizi, there's no room for discussion about the study. Yihua said faintly. The main thing was that he wanted to throw Yi Zizi into the school and properly get along with humans. Yihua wanted Yi Zizi to not always think about sucking on humans, and Yihua wanted Yi Zizi to know how to control herself. Just look at Wei Chong. He is able to control himself so well that he is even able to think. Seeing that his honor's attitude was so unyielding, Yi Zizi could only seek help from Qingya. "Sister-in-law, Zizi, are you listening to sister-in-law?" Qingya asked with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi nodded vigorously. She felt that there was hope. "Then listen to your eldest cousin." Yi Zizi was speechless. Even if he pretended to be pitiful, he wouldn't be able to escape his fate of going to school. The thought of sitting with a group of human children made him want to eat them all up. "Zizi, studying is pretty good. If you don't study, you won't even be able to find a job in the future." Qing Yutong patted onto Yi Zizi's head and began to add insult to injury. Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth, then began to peel the prawn pitifully. "At that time, I will make a big fuss. Yi Zizi, don't think about useless things." Yihua still didn't know what Yi Zizi was thinking about and gave a warning. The family meeting ended here, and Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi breathed out a sigh of relief. They felt like when they were young, they had failed their exams, and were being lectured by their parents. "Qingya, didn't you say that you are going to take wedding photos? Hurry up and decide, in case you say that it doesn't look good when you pat me when I have a big stomach." Picking up the prawn meat that Qingya peeled, Yihua asked. Qingya pondered for a bit, then said, "Let's go to Sanya, the scenery there is pretty good. Furthermore, this time, we have only played for a day, so we will be able to play more if we go to Sanya."
"Why are we going so far away?"
Yihua asked while wrinkling his brows. "There is a seascape over there. Long City is located inland, and there is only a river there. This time, we can also bring Yutong and Zizi along with us." Qingya felt that this method was feasible. Qing Yutong didn't want to go out and was planning to be a female otaku. "Big sister, I am someone who wants to become a female streamer to earn money." Zizi also wants to eat chicken. "No, you two have to go. One is the bridesmaid, and the other is the bridesmaid. It's decided. We'll set off tomorrow."
The three of them exclaimed at the same time. "Tomorrow?"
"That's right, I will treat you all to a vacation, and I will pay for all of the expenses." Qingya was very forthright. Since Yihua agreed to it yesterday, he followed Qingya's wishes. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi let out a heavy sigh. How good is it to stay at home? There is air conditioning, takeaway, and games. Why do we have to go out and suffer? After eating crayfish, Qingya joined the chicken dinner party. Yihua really didn't want to say anything. How did you teach them a lesson in the first place? And now, you are in cahoots with them. Where is your moral integrity? Because little Ali was online again. Yihua, who was bored, walked downstairs to see if the business had improved or not. However, when he went downstairs to take a look, other than his own attendants and security guards, there was no one else. How is this possible? Yihua waved his hand towards Wei Chong. Boss, what's the matter? Where is everyone? Yihua asked gravely. Wei Chong shook his head. I don't know either. A few months ago, this place was filled with people, and as long as I walked downstairs, all kinds of screams would be heard. But now, sighing, Yihua said, I am going out for a few days tomorrow. When I come back, I want to see this place filled with people. If not, I will deduct your salary. Boss, I still want to ask you for a raise in salary. Wei Chong said embarrassedly. So it turns out that finding a girlfriend costs so much, and now, I even have to pay more for gas. Yihua glared at Wei Chong. You still want to ask for a raise in salary? I am going to starve to death. Boss, there is a strong smell of stir-fried crayfish coming from your body. You still dare to talk back to me now? Subordinate doesn't dare. Wei Chong said hurriedly. Didn't I see that Zizi has returned? I am happy in my heart, so I am just being mischievous for a bit. How is the matter that I asked you to investigate? Yihua took out a cigarette and sat on the booth seat at the side. Wei Chong was slightly startled. I seem to have forgotten about it. I am still investigating. If there is really no other way, you can go and add fuel to the fire. The goal is to make them fight. The more miserable the better. Yes. After finished speaking, Yihua stood up and walked towards the outside. Boss, where are you going? Going outside to get some fresh air. Wei Chong replied. His honor even learned how to take a walk after a meal. Seems like it won't be long before he goes to square dance. Thinking about it was just thinking about it. Right now, he still had to quickly contact Death Mage. Yichen took out his phone and gave Death Mage a call. After thinking for a bit, he hung up the phone. Death Mage. Death Mage, who was currently playing the game, went into a daze and hurriedly replied, Master! His honor has ordered you to become a spy and investigate the movements of both the North and South. Wei Chong felt that this was exactly what his honor meant. After all, only a spy would be able to gather a large amount of information, and this was how all spy dramas played out. Spy. Death Mage felt that he shouldn't be called Death Mage anymore, because the quest was no longer related to death. That's right, report to me every day. Your subordinate will obey your orders. After cutting off the connection, Death Mage let out a deep sigh. The missions that his honor gave me are getting more and more difficult. How am I going to play games in the future? Biu. The sound of a max-leveled cannon rang out beside him. Sun Fong was also fishing with her phone in her hand. That serious look on her face made it seem like she was taking revenge. That's right, she was taking revenge. Since she couldn't beat him, she would use what he was best at to defeat him. But this fishing is too much of a scam. I don't even have money anymore, and even eating 3 meals a day is a problem for me. I might as well just return the house and get back the deposit. It is impossible for me to stay on the overpass, but going to the park is a pretty good choice. In any case, if I don't kill him in this lifetime, I swear that I am not a human. Death Mage immediately typed, then used his bone finger and tapped onto Sun Fong's shoulder. I have a way to earn money, do you want to do it? After looking at Death Mage's finger, Sun Fong's brows tightly wrinkled. Death Mage is definitely not doing anything good, but even if I don't have money, I can't defeat him. After thinking for a long time, I'll do it. GGG. Chapter 165. Death Mage already had a plan on how to complete his honor's order. This is going to be a very different kind of spy job, and it is filled with blood and cruelty. I really like it. On the other side, Yihua took a stroll outside, and when he came back, there was an additional document bag in his hands. This document bag was sent over by Lai Gu, and inside the document bag was Yi Zizi's personal information. Right now, I don't even need to go and look for little Jiu. Lai Gu already has resources in his hands. Not bad, you are starting to have brains. Returning to the second floor, Yi Zizi could be heard shouting into the microphone, while Qing Ya and Qing Yutong were both silent. Auntie, you're such a noob. Little Ali's childish voice sounded from the headset. Yi Zizi was furious. Don't call me auntie. But you are Auntie Qing's little sister. If I don't call you auntie, what should I call you? Yi Zizi received 10,000 damage. Have you ever seen such a lowly auntie? Qing Ya and Qing Yutong smiled tenderly, but didn't say anything. When these two buffoons are placed together, they are simply capable of tearing apart the sky. Enduring the pain of being called auntie, Yi Zizi decided to defeat Ali with an overwhelming advantage in the game. Little Ali also seemed to know that compared to Yi Zizi, it was useless. Apart from these 4 people, the other 96 were suffering. Among them, more than 70 heads were split evenly between 2 people. There were also more than 20 who couldn't take it anymore and self-destructed. In the end, as soon as these 2 accounts appeared, all sorts of explosions would appear on the screen. This game couldn't be played anymore. When faced with 2 immortals, you could only kneel. I didn't expect that Yi Zizi would be so powerful. In the beginning, she was still very unfamiliar with the game, and after a few rounds, it was as if Yi Zizi was cheating. In a certain live stream room, there were countless bullet screens. Host, aren't you the immortal Slayer King? Now that there are 2 celestial beings, streamer Celestial Bane, please. Also begging streamer Celestial Bane. Host, please give the world a clean PUBG. On the screen, the host clutched his stomach with a pained expression. I'm really not in the best condition today. I have a stomachache. I'll go offline first. After saying that, the stream went dark. Celestial Bane? Cook me when the time comes. That was a revolver monster, and now there was a crossbow monster. Should I consider switching professions? The live stream was in chaos. The host actually ran away. Everyone, stop scolding the host. Maybe the host is really not feeling well? I'd be a fool to believe him. 2 deities destroyed the balance of the game, and this streamer actually pretended to have a stomachache. Why don't you just say that you're on your period? I heard that my goddess Yu Tong is going to start a live stream and play PUBG. I'm going to watch my goddess. What's there to watch? Even Jade Dynasty can't do it without some skill. Let's go, let's go. I might as well watch the old woman play games. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Sorry for disturbing you. Looking at the bullet screen in the live stream room, the streamer felt very hurt. You all are asking too much. Do you think that Jade Dynasty is that easy? I'm done for. I'm done for. However, right now, Little Ali and Yi Zizi were killing each other in the game. Whoever didn't get a headshot would lose. In the end, it was all headshots. How the F***ck was he going to let people play? So what if he had a cheat? This was too much of a bully. The game company immediately checked and found that these 2 accounts were perfectly normal. Could it be that the latest cheat had appeared and all the technicians were called to work overtime? In the first place, there was no cheat, so how was it possible for them to check? In the end, those technicians didn't return home for an entire month, and they didn't even know that they were cuckolded. Yi Hua stood behind Yi Zizi and watched as she cheated with her instincts. However, he didn't expect that Ali would actually be able to fight to a draw with Yi Zizi. This little Ali is rather mysterious. Northwest Desert. This place was completely uninhabited. If an ordinary person were to walk on this desert, they would die within a few days and become the food of vultures. Under the moonlight, 2 people walked onto this desert. They wore cloaks and walked forward while bending their bodies. After a long time, the 2 people stopped their footsteps. One of them formed a seal with both hands, and a faint water ripple appeared in front of his body. Soon after, the 2 people stepped into the water ripple, and the desert returned to peace once again. The 2 people that stepped into the desert took off their cloaks and took a deep breath. One of them smiled and said, "The air in our voidless realm is still the best. The air in the secular world is poisonous." Of course, this voidless realm is under the protection of the ancient Eastern Emperor. To be able to become a member of Voidless Realm is also a supreme honor. That's right, if we are able to see the Empress once, we would have no regrets in this life. Soon after, the 2 people looked towards the tallest existence within the mountains, and their gazes were filled with endless worship and reverence. Soon after, the 2 people slowly kneeled down and bowed towards that person to show their respect. Looking at the entire Voidless Realm, it seemed as if the entire Voidless Realm was sitting above the layer of clouds, and the mountains were even floating above the layer of clouds. All of the buildings were located at the edge of the mountains, and on top of every mountain, there was a majestic palace, which symbolized the authority of the voidless realm. However, on the highest mountain peak, there was a majestic palace. The entire palace was engraved with majestic divine dragons, and each of the 8 dragons coiled around a white jade stone pillar. The 8 dragons had glaring eyes and sharp claws, scales and beards on their bodies, and the dragons had the power to uproot the mountains and rivers.
In the sky above the palace, there was actually a waterfall, and the sound of the waterfall was high and low, just like the melody of a zither.
Green trees intertwined with each other, and the chirping of cicadas and drums could be heard. It was as if one was at this place, quietly listening to the clear melody of a flowing spring and the green breeze of an ancient pagoda tree. The waterfall flowed along the channel that was dug out and flowed down the mountain, and just happened to fall onto the mountain below. The waterfall flowed into the layer of clouds, disappearing without a trace. At this moment, there were people gathering in the palaces of the various mountains. 8 elders landed in front of this majestic palace, then bowed their bodies and waited.
In front of the palace stood 4 golden-robed and silver-armored imperial guards, and their entire bodies were emitting out faint killing intent. After a long time, one of the guards shouted out, "Enter!"
The 8 elders slightly straightened their bodies and walked into the palace. On the throne at the center of the palace, a woman with extraordinary aura could be seen sitting on it. On her head was a dragon phoenix golden crown, and her appearance was picturesque. Although her pair of eyes were beautiful, there was a layer of frost on them. The dragon-patterned purple robe that was worn on her body made the cold aura that she was emitting rise to a peak. This was a woman that even men would not be able to raise their heads. Her name was Donghuang Baiji.
"Subordinates kowtow to your majesty."
The 8 elders bowed and greeted.
Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, had a calm expression on her face, and not a single ripple could be seen on her face.
Donghuang Baiji slowly raised her hand. The 8 elders stood up and stood on both sides of the palace. "Yuenda, what is the matter that requires us to discuss in the middle of the night?" Donghuang Baiji asked faintly.
A relatively short and small elder stood out, then cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, a demon has appeared in the secular world."
"That 9 demons punishing tower cannot be considered to be a demon," Donghuang Baiji said faintly, seemingly not placing the matter in her eyes at all. Chapter 166. Seeing that the Empress didn't say anything, Yuanda continued to speak. The disciples who just returned from the secular world reported that over 10,000 people had died in the fight for the ancient godly item this time, and there were still 1,000 people who went missing. Those several 10,000 people had all been sucked into dried corpses, and this must have been done by the coffin person. Donghuang Baiji took a faint glance at Yuanda, then said slowly, "So what?" Yuanda was shocked and quickly lowered his head. "Not to mention that aristocratic families will be able to deal with this matter. This matter happened in the south, and it is not under our jurisdiction. If you have anything to say, just say it directly, don't beat around the bush." Donghuang Baiji said coldly. "She is already so old and cunning. Could it be that she still doesn't know how to deal with this matter? It was necessary to make such a big fuss." The 8 subordinates lowered their heads and looked at each other, as if they had already discussed this beforehand. All of them knelt on the ground and said in unison, "We hope that your Majesty will think for the sake of the Donghuang bloodline and give birth to a boy as soon as possible to inherit the Donghuang's inheritance." Donghuang Baiji did not get angry. Instead, she laughed.
"I presume that the 2 of you have already found a husband for this Empress."
Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly.
However, her eyes were emitting out fierce hostility.
Among the 8 people, a slightly plump old man walked out. His name was Xiaofan, and the beard on his chin was about to fall to the ground. He could even be used as a broom.
"Your Majesty, the inheritance of the bloodline is the law of the heavens, not to mention the bloodline of the Eastern Emperor.
The bloodline of Nuwa is nowhere to be found, and the ancient bloodline is even rarer.
Although the other 2 families are not worthy of the surname Eastern Emperor, as long as your Majesty gives birth to a male child and inherits the inheritance of the Eastern Emperor, the Eastern Emperor clan will once again achieve glory."
As he spoke, Xinghan knelt down again. When the others saw Xinghan kneeling down, they also knelt down. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, did not say anything. Xinghan continued, "The aristocratic families in the north are controlled by us, Donghuang, while the aristocratic families in the south are controlled by the Ji family. Although the Ying family lives in the south, They don't care about worldly affairs. I feel that the Ing family is the best choice. After a short pause, Xing Han continued, the second son of the Ing family, Ing Kongsher, is talented and virtuous. He's also quite handsome. He's the best candidate for the Empress's husband. Are you done? Dong Huang Baiji asked faintly. Empress! All of you can leave. Dong Huang Baiji waved her hand and stood up. Yuanda immediately rushed out. This subordinate has something to report. It's about Long and City's Qing bar. Dong Huang Baiji's body trembled, and in an instant, all sorts of emotions appeared on her face. The 8 subordinates of Dong Huang Baiji had their heads lowered in hesitation, and they did not notice the complicated changes that were happening to Dong Huang Baiji. A small leisure bar is of no importance to me. Dong Huang Baiji placed her hands behind her back and prepared to leave. Yuanda hurriedly shouted out, Your Majesty, the conflict between the north and the south this time was caused by this leisure bar's owner. His name is Yi Hua. So he is called Yi Hua. This cruel man was called Yi Hua. Because his back was turned, the 8 subordinates couldn't see his angry and ferocious face. However, everyone else was looking at Yuanda. Why did he bring such a small matter up? Yuanda ignored him and continued, This man has a wife. Her name is Qingya, and she is pregnant. Every single word that Yuanda said was like a sharp blade, stabbing into the weakest part of Dong Huang Baiji's heart. He had a wife. With child. Then what does that make me? Dong Huang Baiji's memories instantly returned to 3 years ago.
The situation on that day was more or less the same as today, just that, back then, her father was sitting on the throne, and on the second day she ran away from the throne, and on the second day she met with the owner of the leisure bar. She, who was in an extremely bad mood, was convinced by the owner of the leisure bar and ended up having sex with the owner of the bar. But when he heard that it was his first time, he felt a little better. He even said that he wouldn't touch the same woman twice and told him not to look for him. At that time he laughed. Did he really think he was a god? He was the most narcissistic person he had ever met. After playing around in the secular world for half a month, Yi Hua returned to Voidless Realm. Yi Hua didn't expect that her father would fall sick, and at that time, she was rather worried. However, the sage doctor who was taking a look at her father's illness was actually able to tell that she was pregnant. How is this possible? However, after the diagnosis, she was dumbfounded. She was really pregnant. She didn't even need to think to know whose child it was. At that time, her father flew into a rage, and his illness worsened. Everyone advised her to abort the child. This was a disgrace to the Dong Huang bloodline. However, he could not bear to do so. This was a life. After resisting for a month, she couldn't take it anymore, and running away was the only choice she had. But where could she run to? At that time, there was only one place that appeared in her mind, and that was Leisure Bar. When she was at that time, she was still thinking about some beautiful things. Although it was an accident, she was able to get to know the other half of her life. However, she never expected that she would wait day after day. Every night, she would see Leisure Bar closing its doors. She would even raise her head to look at the room on the second floor where the lights were still on. Why is it that when you are just a few meters away from me, you aren't willing to come down and take a look at me? Disappointment after disappointment caused her heart to become disheartened. After half a month, when she returned, her father had already left. That day was the darkest day of her life. It was as if she felt that the entire world was abandoning her, and she even thought of committing suicide to end her life. However, when she thought about her child, she endured it. Her child looked a lot like him. Every time she saw her daughter, she would think of that heartless man. What was laughable was that, right now, he had married a woman and was even pregnant. To only touch the same woman once, how laughable was that? To think that I actually believed it. Why were you so heartless when I was pregnant, but you were able to marry this woman? Yuanda. Dong Huang Baiji called out faintly. Just that, her tone was so oppressive that it made people tremble in fear. Subordinate is here. Regarding the matter of going to Ing family to propose marriage, I'll leave it to you. I'll marry her. After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji left with her hands behind her back. The 7 people in the palace still hadn't reacted to what just happened, and only Yuanda let out a sigh of relief. It's finally settled. Hey, what's going on? Why did Her Majesty suddenly agree to it?
Xinghan walked over and asked curiously.
Yuanda laughed lightly. Her Majesty has been thinking about a person.
As long as that person is removed from her mind, there wouldn't be anything for her to think about anymore. The 7 people went into a daze and began to admire Yuanda. They didn't expect that Yuanda would be able to find out about what happened back then. Everyone, keep this matter a secret. It concerns the reputation of the Donghuang family. Yuanda said with a smile, then left the palace with everyone else. Donghuang Baiji didn't return to her room. She sat in the garden and stared blankly at the stars in the sky. Her pair of delicate hands were clenched so tightly that her nails had pierced into her palms, causing her palms to be devoid of blood. After a long while, Donghuang Baiji walked towards her daughter's room. Before she even got close to her daughter's room, she could hear the sound of someone tapping on a keyboard. Donghuang Baiji's expression immediately became cold as she fiercely pushed open the door and entered the room. Donghuang Li, who was currently playing a game, was startled. She hurriedly turned off her computer, then lowered her head and stood obediently at the side. Kneel down. Donghuang Li took down her keyboard, then with a plop sound, knelt down onto the keyboard. I feel that my mother is acting rather abnormally today. I have to be a bit more careful. Donghuang Baiji walked towards the front of the computer and stretched out her palm. Noiselessly, the monitor and the computer turned into dust and floated out of the window. Donghuang Li looked at the screen stupidly. This is the only thing that I have that can come into contact with the outside world, and my mother destroyed it. Chapter 167. Sitting on her daughter's bed, Donghuang Baiji caressed the bedsheet. Looking at her daughter who was crying softly, Donghuang Baiji's eyes couldn't help but turn red. Your heartless father is a liar. Donghuang Li wiped away her tears, and when she saw that her mother's eyes were red, she couldn't help but stand up and throw herself into her mother's embrace. Mother, don't cry. Ali won't play games anymore in the future. I promise that I will study diligently every day and learn martial techniques. Donghuang Li hugged onto her mother's waist and made a vow with her childish voice. Donghuang Baiji lightly hugged onto her daughter. Donghuang Baiji is the closest person to me. However, the person she hated the most was Yi Hua. The funny thing was that he was still waiting, but this was the result. Yi Hua, since you are heartless, then don't blame me for being heartless. Second floor of leisure bar. Ali got disconnected. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise. Yi Zizi was overjoyed and said happily, little brat finally disconnected. Wait for me to execute her and lick her. Zizi, wait a moment. Perhaps Ali will come online soon. Qingya hurriedly said. Qing Yutong rubbed onto her chin and speculated, I feel that Ali's mother has appeared, and Ali might be kneeling on the keyboard right now. Her mother is really something. How could she bear to let a child kneel on the keyboard? Qingya sighed. If it was her own child, she would definitely not bear to let her child kneel on the keyboard. Yi Hua stood up and said faintly, Qingya, it is getting late, time to sleep. Oh! Qingya dragged out her last syllable and unwillingly followed behind Yi Hua. After the two of them left, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi looked at each other. Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi understood immediately. The two of them immediately changed their clothes. Yi Zizi loved cosplay. She had bought quite a lot of cosplay online this afternoon. There were dark, girly, sweet, and all kinds of cosplay styles. Delivery within the same city was really fast. Yi Hua returned to the bedroom and said to Qingya, change the quilt and bedsheet. Why? Isn't it clean? Qingya asked curiously. I don't like people who have slept with other people before. Yi Hua snorted and sat at the side. Qingya was confused. What do you mean by someone else slept on this bed before? Other than us, is there someone else that slept on this bed before? Suddenly, Qingya seemed to have thought of something. Isn't it just a doll? I'm really impressed. Hurry up. All right, I'll change. Qingya said petulantly. After changing into a new blanket and bed sheet, Qingya let out a sigh of relief. Great sir, are you satisfied now? Yi Hua took a look. Other than me, if you put anything else on the bed in the future, see if I don't beat you up. BZZ, 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 I'm going to take a bath. After saying that, Qingya walked into the bathroom while humming a tune. Yihua twisted his neck, then changed into his pajamas and lied on the bed.
For me, the supreme overlord, to let you hug me to sleep. Just how great of a fortune are you?
Not long after, Qingya walked out of the bathroom. Seems like she had a nice bath. Seeing that Yihua was already lying on the bed, she asked, "Aren't you going to take a bath?" "I washed them when I came back."
Quickly go and take another shower.
Qingya pulled onto Yihua's hand and pulled Yihua up. Yihua wrinkled his brows. "Are you sick?"
Qingya sniffed. Such a big smell of smoke, let's quickly go.
Yihua sighed. This woman is truly annoying. 5 minutes later, Yihua walked out of the bathroom, and Qingya, who was on the bed who was currently booking a plane ticket, went into a daze. So fast. Yihua did not say anything. After lying on the bed, he hugged onto Qingya. Qingya's face turned red. Recently, this fellow is becoming more and more shameless. In the past, I wished that I could stay far away from him, but now, I wish that I could stick onto him 24 hours a day. However, lying in Yihua's embrace felt really comfortable and gave me a sense of security. It was as if even if the sky were to collapse, Yihua would be there to hold it up, and furthermore, it was the kind that would be extremely easy. "This blanket is too short," Yihua said gravely. Qingya, who was in his embrace, was startled. This fellow actually knows how to speak sweet words. Did the sun rise from the west today? Annoying. Qingya bashfully punched onto Yihua. "We are already an old couple, yet you are still so flirtatious, big baddie." Yihua did not know what this woman was doing and continued, "This blanket is too short." "I know, I will still be together with you in my next life." Yihua was stupefied by this woman's IQ. "What I am saying is that this blanket is too short." Blanket. Blanket. In order to emphasize, Yihua's exposed legs even trembled a little. Qingya seemed as if she had eaten a fly, and the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. I thought that Yihua was saying that this lifetime is too short, but I didn't expect that he was talking about a blanket. Yihua slowly lifted up Qingya's blushing face and said faintly, "You are very greedy to actually want my next life. Go and die, who wants your next life?" Qingya directly buried herself in Yihua's arms. "This is too embarrassing."
Yihua laughed lightly and held onto his head of hair.
The days are gradually not that boring anymore. Not knowing how much time had passed, Qingya suddenly asked, "Are you asleep?" And Yihua responded, "I am so excited that I can't sleep." Upon thinking that they were going to take wedding photos soon, Qingya started fantasizing about what would look good on her, what would look good on Yihua. Yihua hugged onto Qingya's shoulders and said faintly, "You will naturally be able to sleep when your heart is calm." "Yihua, let me count the sheep." "Childish." Come on, I want to sleep," Qingya continued. "Let me start." "1 sheep," Qingya said with her eyes closed. "2 sheep," Yihua said helplessly. "3 sheep." "4 sheep." "Beautiful sheep." "Lazy." "Lamb." Qingya mumbled. "Roasted lamb." Yihua wrinkled his brows. "Lamb hot pot." "Spicy lamb hot pot." Speaking until here, the two immediately opened their eyes. Qingya pouted her mouth and rubbed onto her stomach. "Hubby, I am hungry." "I am a little hungry too." Yihua was originally not hungry, but as he spoke, he started to feel hungry. What is more important than eating? The two put on their pajamas and directly went out. However, right when they opened the door, they saw the 2 thieves. "What are you two doing?" Yihua shouted out. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi could be seen bending their bodies and walking with small steps. This is not the main point. The main point is their dressing? "Chuin?" Qingya asked curiously. "What are the 2 of you dressing up like this for in the middle of the night? To scare people?" Qing Yutong immediately reacted and said, "Zizi said that she didn't eat her fill at night, so I brought her out to eat supper." "Just nice, we are going out too, let's go together." Qingya shook her head helplessly. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi immediately collapsed. They originally wanted to go out to dance disco, but in the end, before they even reached the staircase, they bumped into Yihua who was going out. How can we be so unlucky? It was still that King Song Mansion's hot pot restaurant. The main point was that it was only a few steps away. Chapter 168. Even though it was late at night, at least half of the customers in the King Song Residence's hot pot restaurant were still seated. From the looks of it, most of them were unable to sleep and were here to eat supper. There were even a few who came out in their pajamas. The moment the four of them entered through the door, they attracted the attention of everyone. With this kind of combination, it was impossible for them to not attract the attention of everyone. Especially for Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi, they were definitely two Lolitas. That small skirt coupled with black stockings, it was simply enough to make people spurt out blood. There was no need to talk about Qing Yutong. Her pair of slender legs were enough to make people unable to take their eyes off her. But Yi Zizi was even more lethal. She was a little lowly. Minimum of 3 years. No upper limit. The few of them headed upstairs to the private room. Last time, they sat in the hall because there were no private rooms available. Those two people are here as well. Qing Yutong could be heard crying out in surprise. Yi Hua and Qingya looked over, and saw a man and a woman talking and laughing while eating. Isn't this boy the one who was abandoned that day? And didn't that girl run away with the rich second generation? It had only been a few days and they were already chatting and laughing together. The fire of gossip ignited within Qing Yutong's heart. Just that, she was stopped by Qingya. Why are you so concerned about other people's matters? Yi Zizi had a curious look on her face. However, when Yi Hua and the others were eating hot pot, Jiu Yi was currently at his own winery receiving a guest. No, it was another owner. At this moment, Lord Jiu was lying on the ground, and a black vortex appeared in front of him. Master, this lowly one has received news that Emperor Tsong is dead. But the cause of death is unknown. Lord Jiu said while trembling with fear. Although a powerful master had died, I, Lord Jiu, am lacking in other things, but I have a lot of masters. A deep voice came from the black vortex. So what if he's dead? I originally wanted him to kill a few more. Lord Jiu felt that it was not convenient for the owner of the black vortex to reveal himself. He was definitely a powerful person and wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work. Go to Sonya tomorrow. Someone will tell you what to do. Yes. After finished speaking, the black whirlpool disappeared. Jiu Yi slowly stood up and let out a breath. For me to be able to get to my current position, I have to rely on the help of these masters. Just that, why did Emperor Tsong die just like that? Originally, I still have a lot of things that I need him to do. What a pity. Lord Jiu took out his 8848 titanium phone, opened WeChat, found someone, and typed. Master, the black vortex wants me to go to Sonya tomorrow. After sending the message, Lord Jiu picked up a cigar, cut off one end, and leaned back comfortably on the sofa, waiting for the reply. Ding dong. Lord Jiu immediately checked the replies. Observe the situation and wait for my orders. Yes. Lord Jiu laughed. Why were these big shots killing each other for no reason? Luckily, Lord Jiu had a good brain. But what was going to happen to Sonya? He was really curious. In a park in Longan City, it was pitch black here however, there were two shadows sitting on a bench, flickering with a faint light. One could even hear them if one walked closer. Biu. They were the duo who had refunded their rent and came out to sleep in the park. They were probably the bitter duo. Death Mage and Sun Fong were holding onto their phones, and beside them was a power bank. Death Mage and Sun Fong were using all their strength to press on the screen, especially Sun Fong. It was as if she had a grudge against the screen. Suddenly, Death Mage's phone's battery was low. Death Mage picked up the battery pack and took a look at it. He immediately sent a WeChat message to Sun Fong. Looking at the WeChat message that Death Mage had sent over, Sun Fong sneered. You want to have a power bank? Go and die. You tricked me out and said you have a solution? Is this the solution? Sleep in the park. This scoundrel is just cheating me of my rent. Reply. Return the money. Death Mage immediately typed a reply. If you don't give me the power bank, how am I going to fish? If I don't fish, how am I going to return the money to you? It seemed to be quite reasonable, but Sun Fong wouldn't fall for it. She protected the power bank within her bosom. Return the money, return my life, return my innocence. Death Mage replied, don't force me to make a move. Sun Fong wasn't afraid at all. Come and try. Death Mage could be seen placing his precious phone and power bank at the side, then directly pressed Sun Fong down on the bench. This scene was a bit erotic. You damned skeleton, let go of me, scoundrel. My entire body is hard. Sun Fong pressed onto Death Mage's sternum with both of her hands and pushed with all her might. However, how could this little bit of strength be Death Mage's opponent? GGG. Imperial translation. Are you giving or not? Although Sun Fong didn't know what Death Mage was saying, she seemed to be able to feel it. Not giving, get lost. Death Mage could be seen grabbing towards the power bank, but his position seemed to be a bit off. The two seemed to have been paused. Death Mage felt that his hand was a bit soft, and he tried again. Sun Fong opened her beautiful eyes wide. My chest is actually being attacked by a skeleton. Shameless skeleton, I am going to kill you today. Sun Fong could be seen taking the initiative and pressing Death Mage down, and Death Mage reacted quickly and pressed his bone hand onto her chest. Sun Fong looked at the bone hand on her chest blankly, and her expression was terrifyingly gloomy. TSK. On a moonless night, to actually forcefully snatch a man, a demoness. Today, I, Do Fushir, will uphold justice on behalf of the heavens and save this innocent man. A young man who wore a yellow Taoist robe could be seen suddenly appearing. On his back was a peachwood sword, and on his hand was a talisman. Follow the law. Do Fushir threw out the yellow talisman, and it just so happened to be stuck onto Sun Fong's forehead. Right now, Sun Fong received 100,000 points of violence. Are you fucking blind? It just so happens that I don't have a place to vent my anger. Consider yourself unlucky. Sun Fong tore off the talisman on her forehead, and Do Fushir turned pale with fright. Demoness! You still have some skills. Watch how I am going to subdue you today. Subdue your sister. Sun Fong shot out explosively, and her body turned into a faint afterimage. Death Mage who sat up picked up Sun Fong's power bank and plugged it into his phone. Biu. Do Fushir didn't expect that this malicious spirit would be so powerful. To actually not be afraid of any talismans, and to even be able to catch the peachwood sword with her bare hands. In any case, I have the ghost catching system, so how can I be beaten up by a malicious spirit? Plop. Big sister ghost, spare me. Sun Fong was currently in a berserk state, and everyone misunderstood that I had an affair with the skeleton. Even the Taoist priest thought that I was violating the skeleton. How can I not be angry? I'm going to fucking kill you. The resentment in Sun Fong's heart was indeed not light. If not, why would Do Fushir treat Sun Fong as a ghost? Do Fushir looked at Sun Fong, who was incomparably sinister. I'm finished. It wasn't easy for me to obtain the system, and in less than a year, I'm going to die before I even have the chance to show off. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no pain coming. Could it be that this is death? Let go of me, I'm going to kill this Taoist priest who is full of nonsense. Death Mage could be seen holding onto Sun Fong's waist with one hand, while Sun Fong was baring her fangs and brandishing her claws at Do Fushir. Do Fushir slowly raised his head. At this moment, the moonlight just happened to shine onto Death Mage's face, and Do Fushir's eyeballs were about to pop out. However, Sun Fong's delicate hands had already fallen onto Death Mage's body. Do Fushir looked at the cracked ground beside him, and his back turned cold. Big brother Gue was the best. Sister Gue was too cruel. Let me go, I want to kill him. Dead ghost, quickly let go of me. Sun Fong struggled within Death Mage's embrace as she scratched and bit at Death Mage. Death Mage let out a breath. This woman is truly insane. Seems like I have no choice but to use my trump card. As long as I use my trump card, I can guarantee that she will immediately faint. That is, kiss of death. Death Mage gave out his second kiss in his life, and Sun Fong opened her beautiful eyes wide. Looking at the empty eye sockets in front of her, her eyes rolled and she fainted. Do Fushir slowly lowered his head. I am still a child. Big brother Gue, are you very short of money? Do Fushir asked. Death Mage, who was hugging onto Sun Fong, typed on his phone, tell me. I just passed by a winery, and I heard that something big is going to happen in Sanya, and there is money to be made from it. Although Do Fushir didn't hear what Death Mage said, he roughly understood what Death Mage meant. Is there really such a thing? Death Mage typed and asked. In order to save my life, even if there isn't, I have to say that there is. Big brother Gue, how would I dare to lie to you? Death Mage thought for a bit. Since something big is going to happen, I will definitely be able to gather information. Furthermore, I will also be able to make money, so why not?
If you dare to lie to me, you are dead for sure.
Death Mage typed.
With a wave of his hand, the three of them instantly disappeared from the park and appeared in Sonya.
Death Mage truly comes and goes without a trace. Yihua is still waiting for the flight tomorrow. Right now, Yihua and the others had just finished eating supper and were returning home together.
Hubby, I'm so full.
Qingya held onto Yihua's arm and said sweetly. After the misunderstanding was solved, Qingya became like a little girl and liked to act cute in front of Yihua. Yihua patted onto Qingya's head. Who asked you to eat so much? So full. Zizi is also full. The two Chuyin that were following behind Qingya held onto their waists and looked as if they were going to die from bloating. These are the three foodies. Of course, the one who looks good is called a foodie, the one who looks ugly is called a rice bucket. Returning back to the bedroom, Qingya, who had eaten and drank to her heart's content, instantly fell asleep. She was the kind that wouldn't wake up even if you shouted at her. Early morning. The weather today was not bad. The sun was not very big, suitable for going out for a trip. Yihua opened his eyes and looked at his chest. Seems like Qingya's drooling problem is finally gone. Wake up. Raising his hand, Yihua lightly patted Qingya. Wake up. No, it is still early now. Our flight is at noon. I will buy breakfast for you. Yihua was a man who kept his promise. Since he had promised, he would definitely fulfill it. Qingya hugged onto Yihua tightly. You are not allowed, I will buy breakfast for you later. Yihua had no choice but to carry Qingya and throw her into the washroom to let her sober up a bit. However, the sound of Qingya fighting Yihua to the death could be heard from the washroom. The result was, of course, Qingya was defeated. Big sister Qing, why are big cousin and the rest so noisy? Yi Zizi lied on the bed and asked in a daze. Qing Yutong had even more of a bad sleeping posture. The blanket was kicked off the bed as she muttered, "It will be fine once you get used to it." Oh. While smoking, Yihua walked out of leisure bar and arrived at the entrance of the alley. 2 pancakes, one of them with eggs and sausages. Yihua stood in front of the ant and shouted. Upon hearing that, the ant smiled and said, "Have you reconciled?" Yihua did not speak. Stop pretending, what is there to be shy about? Coaxing your wife is a natural thing to do. Which eye of yours saw that I am pretending? Do you believe that I will not eat here anymore in the future? The ant who was making pancakes laughed and said, "You should smile more. What is the point of putting on a straight face every day, especially when facing your wife?" Preposterous logic. Yihua said indifferently. The ant was not convinced, and a debate began. Qingya waited for a long time and did not see Yihua return, and was a little worried. Thus, she ran to the entrance of the alley and actually saw Yihua and the ant arguing about something. "Yihua, you too?" Qingya walked over and asked curiously. Yihua stretched out his hand and hugged onto the ant's shoulder, then said, "My wife, I will make the decision." The ant was speechless. Just a few days ago, you two still looked like you were about to die. If not for Ant helping you, you two would not be able to reconcile so quickly. Next time, don't expect Ant to help you. Chapter 170. While eating the ant's crepe, Yihua snorted. "If it wasn't for the fact that the crepe tastes good, I wouldn't have come here to buy it from you." Qingya didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she hit Yihua. "What are you doing?" "That ant actually said that I'm afraid of my wife. Just thinking about it makes me angry." While biting on the crepe that the ant made, Yihua scolded the ant. In actuality, every time Yihua went to buy breakfast, the auntie would always sincerely tell Yihua about it. In the beginning, Yihua had the intention to kill Yihua, but at that time, Yihua endured it. After a few years had passed, Yihua had actually gotten used to it. If I don't listen to the auntie's nagging, I would feel like I am lacking something. Humph, isn't it good to be afraid of me? Qingya laughed. Yihua chuckled and walked into leisure bar. "Stop right there, what do you mean by hee-hee?" Qingya stomped her feet, then took a bite of the Chinese jianbing. So fragrant, after returning to the second floor, everyone began to clean up their clothes. Yihua looked at the 3 women. Are they preparing to move or what? Especially Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi, these 2 big chests. The box was almost as tall as Yi Zizi. Qingya dragged her luggage out and looked at her sister and Zizi. Why did you two bring so many things? Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi looked at Qingya's suitcase, then looked at their own suitcase. Cousin-in-law, your suitcase is even bigger than Zizi's. Qingya rolled her eyes at Yihua, who was leaning against the door. Your big cousin's clothes are also stuffed inside. Big brother is even lazier than Zizi. Yihua glared at Yi Zizi, then said faintly, let's go. Qing Yutong cried out in surprise, me and Zizi still haven't changed yet, wait a moment for us. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong closed the door. When Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi appeared once again, the corner of Yihua and Qingya's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It is one thing for Yi Zizi to wear a princess dress and hold a small umbrella, but you, Qing Yutong, are already so big, and you are still wearing such a dress. The main point is still my face. Qingya's head was hurting. Sister, I have another set here. Do you want to change? Qing Yutong said elatedly.
If it was only one person wearing it, it would be crazy, but if it was two people wearing it, two crazy people wearing it, at least there would be one companion. It would be best if big sister was dragged into the water. Then there would be three crazy people. Yi Zizi turned around and giggled. Eldest Biaoga, eldest cousin-in-law, is Zizi beautiful? It must be said that Yi Zizi was indeed extremely cute, and there was no problem with Qing Yutong dressing up like this, but walking on the street like this. Is it really suitable? Sigh, let's go. Qingya said dispiritedly. She felt as if she was bringing along three children who were going out on a trip. Arriving at the airport, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi instantly became the focus of attention. Basically, everyone was looking at the two of them, and taking all kinds of photos. Especially Yi Zizi. Uncles love her the most. 9 out of 10 Lolas are rich, and there's still one. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were very magnanimous, and they put on various kinds of poses. An airport was forcefully turned into a cosplay exhibition, and if it wasn't for Qingya dragging the two of them away, the two of them would definitely play for an entire day. Qingya finally knew why Yihua said that on that day. My heart is so tired, I have to be their nanny. When they arrived at the VIP waiting room, they finally stopped talking, but they were still discussing all kinds of clothes. Now you know that you have a headache. Yihua sat on the sofa and said faintly while looking at a magazine. Qingya let out a breath. I should have listened to Yihua back then, so tired. It's all master's fault. I am just a servant. Suddenly, an arrogant middle-aged man walked in from the door, but when he saw Yihua and the others, he immediately shrunk his head and slightly turned around. Xiao Jiu, Qing Yutong shouted out. Jiu Ye's heart sunk. Why is it them again? Nothing good will come out of being together with them. However, I have already been discovered. If I were to leave just like this. Sigh. Boss, lady boss. Jiu Yi smiled and walked forward. Yihua raised his head and took a look, then lowered his head and looked at the magazine again. He felt that some of the clothes in the magazine were very suitable for Qingya. Xiao Jiu, where are you going? Qingya smiled slightly. Completely different from the cold-faced CEO in the past, the power of love is just too great. Jiu Yi felt very bitter in his heart. Please don't go to the same place. Lady boss, I am preparing to go to Sanya. You are going to Sanya too. We are going too. Jiu Yi. Other than laughing dryly, Jiu Yi didn't know how to express his current mood. Jiu Yi didn't dare to sit down. He poured a cup of water and stood at the side, waiting. Suddenly his phone rang, and when he took out his phone to take a look, it was actually his wife who called. What's the matter? Jiu Yi asked lightly. A questioning voice could be heard coming out from the phone. Where did you go? Didn't I tell you last night? I am going to Sanya to settle some matters. Jiu Yi slightly wrinkled his brows. This wife of mine is always letting her imagination run wild every day. Sanya. To attend the Ocean and Sky Banquet. F***K. You can even think of this. Why don't you go write a book? Are you sick? Jiu Yi shouted lightly. The cup of water in his hand trembled, and the tea spilled onto his suit. A flight attendant could be seen slowly walking over and said delicately, Sir, your water is flowing out. Do you need me to clean it up? Jiu Yi went into a daze, and the woman on the phone was also stunned. Soon after, Jiu Yi exploded in anger. Gong Wei, you still dare to talk about going to Sanya? To actually look for a lady, if you have the ability, don't come back. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Jiu Yi went into a daze. However,
The flight attendant also heard the voice from the phone.
Sir, I'm sorry for causing trouble for you.
Jiu Yi sighed, then kept the 8848 titanium phone. It's fine.
Sorry for disturbing you. I knew that nothing good would come out of meeting this couple. It hasn't even been a minute and my wife is going to divorce.
After waiting for half an hour, Yi Hua and the others boarded the plane. The plane that they bought was, of course, a business class seat. After Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi boarded the plane, they immediately went to sleep. However, Yi Zizi was lying on Qing Yutong's body as she slept. They definitely looked like mother and daughter. Meanwhile, Qing Ye was lying on Yi Hua's body, quietly enjoying the moment of tranquility. Jiu Yi was just sitting at the side, but he still couldn't let go of himself. This is truly depressing. Suddenly, a flight attendant walked over. Jiu Yi raised his head and took a look, and it was actually that flight attendant from just now. Sir, it's not good for your water stain to stick to your clothes. Let me help you clean it up. The flight attendant slightly bowed her body. Jiu Yi was an experienced person, and he immediately understood what this flight attendant meant. Interesting, since you want to help me clean it up so much, I will help you clean it up then.
Where are we going?
Sir, follow me. There is a place to change clothes here. The so-called place to change clothes was the washroom, and when Jiu Yi walked out of the washroom had indeed been cleaned up. After flying for 1.5 hours, they finally arrived at Sanya International Airport. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were holding onto a small umbrella, and they had a sleepy look on their face, making them look very lovable. Boss, lady boss, where are you two staying? I will send you two there. Jiu Yi said courteously, feeling that he could finally get rid of them. Chapter 171.
That's too much trouble for you.
Qing Ye also appeared to be very polite.
It's no trouble at all.
Then let's go to the Three Seasons Hotel.
Lord Jiu, why?
Why are we even staying in the same hotel? Why does the heavens have to target me, Jiu Yi? I really want to stay in another hotel, but Master has already instructed me to stay in this hotel and wait for orders. Big cousin, Zizi can't walk anymore. Hug me. Yi Zizi rubbed her hazy eyes and stretched out her arms. Yi Hua let out a sigh. This fellow is truly too lazy. Just as Yi Zizi was about to carry Yi Zizi, Qing Ye was faster than Yi Zizi. Yi Hua was speechless. Yi Zizi could be seen hugging onto Qing Ye's white neck, and immediately fell asleep. Yi Zizi was famous for being lazy. When she was bored, she would sleep, and it was the kind of sleep that lasted only seconds. The longest time she slept was several months. The Three Seasons Hotel was located by the sea. Its location was excellent, and it was a 5-star hotel with complete facilities. One could face the sea when they woke up in the morning. This feeling was very comfortable, but the price was not cheap. After arriving at the hotel, Yi Zizi was once again full of energy, and was chattering non-stop with Qing Yutong. Without thinking too much, these two were definitely discussing to do something bad. There were a lot of people going in and out of the Three Seasons Hotel, causing Qing Ye to be a bit puzzled. Although it is currently the tourist season, the number of people here is a bit too much, right? Yi Hua felt that these people weren't ordinary people, and he was rather curious in his heart. What are so many people gathering here for? Shouldn't they be discussing about going to the north to snatch the ancient godly item? After Jiu Yi arrived at the hotel, he hurriedly took his leave. Although I really want to hug onto this thigh, but I feel that this thigh is very dangerous. Even more dangerous than those masters. The main thing is that Jiu Yi doesn't have any confidence in his heart. This boss doesn't play his cards according to common sense, and furthermore, I can't see through him. Fortunately, I booked a room yesterday. Qing Ye said with a light smile. Yi Zizi, who was at the side, was holding a small umbrella and licking her lips. There was so much delicious food in front of her. She almost couldn't hold it in anymore. Qing Yutong also held onto the small umbrella and acted cute. After poking Yi Zizi, Qing Yutong's eyebrows twitched. Yi Zizi immediately understood and raised his eyebrows. It seemed like the two of them didn't even need to talk to communicate anymore. They could only use their eyebrows. After taking the room card, everyone went upstairs to rest. Qing Ye decided to start taking the wedding photos tomorrow, then properly accompany Yi Hua to have a good rest and treat it as a honeymoon. While Yihua was currently on vacation happily, little Ali, who was far away in Voidless Realm, wasn't so lucky. He finished his homework in the morning, ate his lunch, and practiced his swordsmanship in the afternoon. Right now, Dong Huangli was brandishing a sword that was even longer than Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli's face was covered with sweat, but Dong Huangli didn't complain about it. Dong Huangli's eyes were filled with determination. I will definitely not disappoint my mother. When my mother sees my achievements, she will definitely be happy and reveal a smile on her face, and not frown all day long. Soft shouts rang out in the side courtyard, and the female attendants in the surroundings felt extremely distressed. Such a young child, under normal circumstances, would act like a spoiled child by her mother's side. Just because she was the Empress's child, did she have to work so hard? Your Highness, please take a rest, one of the maids said with a pained heart. Dong Huangli could be heard saying, there's no need for that. Mother will definitely be happy to see how hard-working Ali is. The maid let out a light sigh. The Empress is very busy every single day, and she can only come over to see little His Highness at night. Dong Huangli repeatedly practiced the sword technique that her mother taught her, and her sweat had already drenched her clothes. Not knowing how long had passed, Dong Huangli kept her sword and looked towards her mother's bedroom. The bedroom is clearly right in front of me, but I can't go over. Your Highness, please take a rest. The maid brought over a cup of tea and said with concern, Ali misses mother. Dong Huangli didn't take the cup of tea and said in a daze. The maid was a bit flustered, and immediately knelt in front of Dong Huangli. Your Highness, the Empress has given the order. Your Highness is not allowed to walk out of this side courtyard without permission. How could Dong Huangli not know about this? Dong Huangli let out a light breath. Big Sister Ping, it's all Ali's fault. I made you all follow Ali and live here. Perhaps Ali shouldn't even exist in this world. Dong Huangli slowly squatted down and hugged onto her legs. From the moment Dong Huangli was born until now, she had never left this side courtyard. Other than those 8 elders, no one knew that the Empress had a daughter. Even the maids that were serving the Empress were not allowed to step out of the side courtyard. Of course, there were also the Empress's imperial guards that were stationed at the entrance of the side courtyard. These maids had watched Dong Huangli grow up day by day. However, the more they watched Dong Huangli grow up, the more their hearts ached. The Empress is too heartless. However, Dong Huangbaiji had her own difficulties as well. Ali's birth was unknown, and if this matter were to be spread out, the consequences would be unthinkable. It might even implicate the entire Voidless Realm. In this world, which mother would be willing to lock their child up? Your Highness. The maid lightly hugged onto Dong Huangli and comforted her. Let's go back to our room. Dong Huangli took another look at her mother's bedroom, then dragged her petite back into the room. The 3 maids immediately went to prepare hot water and food. After eating dinner by herself, Dong Huangli sat in front of the window and looked at the stars. Dong Huangli was already used to it. Originally, there was a computer that allowed me to interact with the outside world, but right now, I don't even have a computer anymore. I can only continue to be in a daze and wait for my mother to come over. I should be able to sleep after hugging my mother. I should be able to have a good dream, right? I should be able to dream that my mother will bring me to sit on a pirate ship, eat ice cream, and eat McDonald's. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Dong Huangli waited for an unknown amount of time. Dong Huangli turned her head around and looked at the door. Mother still hasn't come over. Dong Huangli stood up and walked to the door. It was very quiet outside the door. Dong Huangli wrinkled her brows, then walked to the door of the courtyard with small steps. From the crack of the door, she saw that there was someone standing outside the courtyard. Dong Huangli was a bit disappointed. She turned around and walked towards the courtyard. If only I am able to pass through the wall. What is my mother doing right now? Suddenly, Dong Huangli's petite body disappeared from the courtyard, and when she reappeared, she was already outside the wall. Dong Huangli was badly frightened by herself. Looking at the guards that were tens of meters away, Dong Huangli immediately ran to the corner and covered her mouth. Wasn't I inside the courtyard just now? Why did I come out? Also, my head feels so dizzy. I am seeing double. After a long while, Dong Huangli finally came back to her senses. Originally, Dong Huangli wanted to go back to the courtyard, but when she saw her mother's bedroom, Dong Huangli wanted to hug her mother before going back to sleep. Since Dong Huangli had already decided, she walked towards her mother's bedroom. This was the first time that Dong Huangli walked outside of her mother's bedroom. Every single grass and every single tree was able to arouse Dong Huangli's curiosity. Unknowingly, Dong Huangli felt very happy. Soon, Dong Huangli arrived outside of her mother's bedroom.
Dong Huangli muttered, "There are so many guards. If only I could go in like how I did just now."
Dong Huangli immediately appeared inside the bedroom. However, Dong Huangli was currently holding onto her head, looking like she was about to faint. However, when Dong Huangli saw that the bedroom was right in front of her, Dong Huangli became very excited. The lights in the bedroom are still lit. Mother should still be dealing with some matters. Dong Huangli felt that she should go and pour a cup of water for her mother to drink and tell her mother to rest early. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.